أفضل المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. وبعد, before starting, I would like to ask you, as I did last time, please make dua for the speaker. As we said last time, the righteous people before us, before attending any session of ilm, sometimes they used to even give charity in secrecy. And then they go in and then they make the dua. Oh Allah, conceal from me his faults and allow me to benefit from the knowledge he has. And for sure, wallahi, I need your dua more than anything. May Allah enable me to speak in the best possible manner. And may Allah open all the hearts here that what I say is of benefit. May Allah conceal any defects or any wrong thing that I say, inshallah, and amend that. And allow you to benefit from whatever is good and right in whatever we're saying, inshallah. We're discussing the topic of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, the generation of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, how he appeared. And last time, just a quick summary, we were discussing that it's not about just one figure. Salahuddin is not just a superhero that emerged in the scene, unified the ummah, and achieved victory. It is not about one person that's military strong. It's actually, thinking that way is injustice to him and to the generation around him. The question was, how was things before Salahuddin al-Ayyubi? And we discussed in greater details how the Muslim Ummah was divided, how the Ismaili sect had control over Egypt, how another deviant sect called the Assassins appeared, and how the divisions happened in the Ummah, and how the Ummah reacted to the first crusade when it came. And we said that the real disease of the Ummah at the time was in the heart, Hubb al-Dunya, the love of this world, materialistic lifestyle. The creed was not on a straight path. And we mentioned that the appearance of leaders like Nuruddin Zinki and Salahuddin Zinki was a result of the scholars of the time. We quickly discussed last time the appearance of the great Imam Hujjat al-Islam al-Ghazali and Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani and Imam Ibn al-Jawzi, all of which lived at this time and had direct relation on the appearance of the likes of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi and Nuruddin Zinki. To go quickly, last time we stopped on the appearance of Nuruddin Zinki, this righteous, great figure, a great abid, a great scholar, a great ruler, and how he controlled, unified the area of Sham, and how he stood against the Crusades. And we also discussed how that he sent 3 campaigns to Egypt and to resist the efforts of the Crusaders to take Egypt. And at the end of the day, how his campaigns in Egypt succeeded and eventually led to the appearance of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. And we discussed that in details last time, so I don't have time, inshallah, to go through it again. We stopped last time on the appearance of Salahuddin. We mentioned how the campaign of Nuruddin Zinki and his soldiers under Asad-ud-Din Shirkuh went to Egypt and succeeded in overthrowing the Ismailis there and the Crusaders, and how the Ismaili Khalifa, who was still at the time in Egypt. At this time there were 2 Khilafas, the Abbasi Khalifa in Baghdad and the Ismailis in Cairo. After Asad-ud-Din Shirkuh died, he wanted to select a figure that he can control. And he said, let me select the weakest among his men. And he thought the weakest is the youngest, which at the time was Yusuf, the nephew of Asad-ud-Din Shirkuh. And he picked him as the wazir. And this nephew of Asad-ud-Din Shirkuh was actually Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. And we discussed how sometimes people plot, إنهم يكيدون كيدا وأكيد كيدا. He thought that this is the weakest person that he's going to be controlling. He ended up picking Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. And as such, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi came to be the wazir of Egypt without him even wanting to do that, under the rule of Nuruddin Zinki. That's exactly where we stopped last time. Let's describe quickly Salahuddin. So Salahuddin al-Ayyubi is a very righteous figure. He is one figure raised by scholars of the time. As we said, he was a student of Al-Hafiz ibn Asakir, whom which Nuruddin Zinki established a school for in Damascus. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, as they describe him, he loved Salat al-Jama'ah. One of the things he was so keen to do is prayers in Jama'ah, all the time. He had his own imam. So whenever he goes and it's time for fighting, when it's time for Salah, he has the imam, he established Salah, he always prays in time. They describe him very careful about praying the Sunnah prayers. Always praying the Sunnah, in battle or not in battle. And again, those are lessons for us. We work, and sometimes because I'm working, I don't pray my Sunnah. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, with all what he went through, always is praying his Sunnah on time. Not only the Fard, but the Sunnah too. They describe him, he loved to hear Quran. They said his heart was so soft, he was so gentle, full of compassion and rahmah. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, whenever he heard Quran recited, he said he becomes teary eyes. immediately tears would come out of his eyes, just by hearing the voice of Quran. It is said that once time he saw a kid reciting Quran, and he stopped, and he heard, and again tears came out, and then he asked for the father of that kid, and gave the father money and told him, this is a talent, and I want you to spend on this kid, make him a scholar. He used to love the voice of Quran. Not only that, hadith. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi was especially careful about hadith, and not only listening to hadith, not reading hadith from Sahih al-Bukhari, no, listening to hadith from scholars. After all, he's been raised by one of the greatest hadith scholars ever, Al-Hafid ibn Asakir in Damascus. He's a great figure of hadith scholarship. When he went to Egypt, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, there was another figure of greatness in the word of hadith compilation and narration. And I wrote his name down, Al-Hafid al-Salafi. There are, at the time, two great narrators of hadith and the art of hadith. And Salahuddin al-Ayyubi was student of both. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, as we said, even the biography I'm using to tell you about is written by who? It's written by Ibn Shaddad, a hadith scholar. And you wonder, like, what happened? And they tell you, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, while in the battlefield, when he goes to fight, he cannot go and attend to Sheikh al-Hafid ibn Asakir or as-Sulafi. So what did he do? He asked Ibn Shaddad, a scholar of hadith, please accompany me. Wherever I go, Ibn Shaddad is with him. Why? So that I can study hadith with you. And Ibn Shaddad tells us that he used to ask Ibn Shaddad to come in his free time, in his tent. And then he said he used to open the Sahih al-Bukhari. And he starts to read the hadith in front of Ibn Shaddad, directly from the scholar, understanding the hadith. And Ibn Shaddad says whenever he would read a hadith, and there is a maw'idah, admonishment in it, he would cry and weep. As a matter of fact, it is said it was the first time in history that hadith transmission, authorized hadith transmission, with a correct chain of narration. It happened in the masjid, it happened everywhere. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, it is his time, the first time ever that hadith transmission properly has been established between the ranks of armies while fighting. While his army is there and the other army is there, hadith was being transmitted. That's how careful he was about the science of hadith. He is very soft-hearted. They describe him, whenever even he wins a battle, he would stand on the way of the defeated people. Why? To help them, to see if they need anything. He was so gentle and soft-hearted. He memorized the Quran. He memorized the Hamasa and Sha'ar. He memorized books of fiqh. I'm speaking about Salahuddin. His ibadah is amazing. Qiyam al-Layl regularly, as we said about Nuruddin Zinki. He heard the Muwatta of Imam Malik. He went to Alexandria, a very famous scholar was there of the Maliki Madhab. And he said, why? It's not sufficient just to read al-Muwatta of Imam Malik. No, I have to go sit at the feet of the scholar. Not only learn the ilm, but the adab that goes with it. He heard the entire Muwatta of Imam Malik directly from a scholar. He took all his kids with him and all his family. That was Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, when he took Egypt, some of his reforms, Egypt at the time under the Ismaili was a complete mess. No schools, economy was completely devastated, agriculture completely devastated, the people, their state was in a mess, their creed is they're very confused. Salahuddin started a wide movement. Number one, the first thing he did, he found that the Ismailis at this time, they were taking 45% taxes from the people. Reminds me of California, right? 45%. Salahuddin, 0% taxes. No taxes. The same thing that Nuruddin Zinki did. 0% taxes. People today will tell you 0% taxes, it means what? That's not possible, brother, right? After all, how? He proved that it's possible. When they were taking 45% taxes, Egypt was in a horrible state. Salahuddin and Nuruddin Zinki with 0% taxes changed everything because they applied the proper understanding of Sharia, the concept of infaq, spending, the concept of waqf, we'll discuss a little bit about. So 0% taxes for the people. Not only that, he found that the Hujjaj, people coming from Morocco, passing through Egypt, the Ismaili sect used to stop them, ask them for money, taxes. If they would not pay, they had a great big prison called Dar al-Ma'una. They would throw them there, torture them until they pay the money. Salahuddin came, the Hujjaj, not only they will not pay, he started establishing what? Dar al-Diyaf, a house of hospitality. When the Hajjis come in Egypt, they can drink, they can eat, they have a place to stay for free. Not only that, later he would guarantee that this would be the case all the way till Medina itself. And instead of this great prison, he demolished the prison and built one of the biggest schools in Egypt. A school for the Shafi'iyya method, the Shafi'iyya fiqh. They describe it as a school that nobody saw anything like it before. They say, the historians, it is like a small city by itself. It has a land beside it that Salahuddin made as a waqf. What does a waqf mean? This land, all the income of this land is to pay for the expenses of the schools and the students. He gave money to the scholars, he gave money to the students. Not only that, Salahuddin had jobs, if you will. You can have a job with Salahuddin al-Ayyubi to do what? To bring kids that are blind. If any kid is blind, you can't see, you need someone to bring you all the way to school and back to your home, right? That was a job Salahuddin paid for. So even the people that are blind, somebody would make sure that they can attend and learn the Quran, learn the Hadith, learn fiqh. Not only him. Don't think again it's a single man. Look at the people around her. His sister. Sitt Sham, they call her, the lady of Sham. What did she do? She built 2 schools. 2 schools. Not only that, and look at the way they spend. She built one of the biggest centers of doing medicine. At the time, this is the time of war, and they found Egypt with a lot of epidemics. She studied pharmacology herself, and she built one of the greatest centers for medicine in the entire region. But not only that, and there is a lesson here. Not only does this center do medicine, she used in her own house to make medicine herself. Why? You have money, why do you give money to someone to do the medicine? Or like, no. And this is the concept. It doesn't suffice that I spend charity as money. I have to do some work with myself. And that's what Sitt Sham, the sister of Salahuddin, used to spend her time on, doing medicine with her own hands and then distributing it for free, for everyone. His other sister, another school for the Hanbali fiqh, Taqiyuddin, his nephew, when he went to Egypt, he bought a land in Al-Fayoum and he built a school by himself. You'll find all the leaders of Salahuddin, that's what they were interested in. They changed Egypt. They concentrated on scholarship, ilm, safety, stability. People loved Salahuddin, his justice, and everything. Nevertheless, this is the reform he did in Egypt. But what was happening at the time? When Salahuddin was in Egypt, as we said, many forces started to work against him. The number 1 force was the Ismaili. The Ismaili sect, they were not happy with the presence of Salahuddin there taking control. So they started plotting against him. And the first plot happened in the very first year he took power in Egypt. A coup, if you will, an attempt to overthrow Salahuddin at the palace. And a battle happened between Salahuddin's forces and some forces that are loyal to the Ismaili Khilafah. And at the same time, the Crusaders, who were not happy that Egypt would fall to Salahuddin and be ruled under Nur-ad-Din Zenki, they were not happy with that. They sent their fleet. They sent their fleet all the way to a city, this place, city called Dumyat of Egypt. And the fleet arrived, and they say hundreds of ships, and they arrived at the city of Dumyat. Salahuddin is busy fighting the coup, and at the same time, the Crusaders are coming down in Dumyat. Salahuddin sent his nephew, Taqiyuddin, to take care of the affairs of the city of Dumyat. At the same time, he sends a letter to Nur-ad-Din Zenki. Nur-ad-Din Zenki, what does he do? What's the first reaction of Nur-ad-Din Zenki? He starts fasting. And we discussed this last time. Whenever we see something happening to this ummah, you saw Gaza 2008, how many people fasted all over the 2 weeks? And again, look at this. This is their natural reaction. When something like that happened, Nur-ad-Din Zenki starts fasting. 2 weeks, he's fasted. And people were worried because the way he broke his fast, he's fasting, making dua, sending help, attacking the force of the Crusaders in Sham to create a diversion for them. But not only that, when he breaks his fast, he's breaking his fast on water, nothing else. So people were afraid for his health. And they got worried, and the affair is not going well. And Dumyat is under siege, and it has been a week and 2. And it's narrated that one day, Nur-ad-Din Zenki, after Fajr Salah, he sits up and his sheikh comes to him. And Nur-ad-Din Zenki smiles to the sheikh. Why? And the sheikh sat in front of him. The sheikh saw a dream, a ru'ya, and was, how will I tell Nur-ad-Din? So Nur-ad-Din looked at him and told him, I know what happened. Would you tell me, or should I tell you? And the scholar, this sheikh said, how do you know? He said, yes, you saw the Prophet yesterday. And the scholar said, yes, I did see the Prophet yesterday. He said, what did he tell you? And he said, the Prophet came and told me in my dream, tell Nur-ad-Din Zenki not to worry anymore. The situation in Dumyat is over. The Crusaders are defeated. So I told him he will not believe me. If I tell him that, he will not believe me. He told him, tell him by the sign of the day of the Battle of Harim. So when Nur-ad-Din heard that, he started crying. And he told him, what did he tell you about the Battle of Harim? What was the sign? Remember we discussed this battle last time, when Nur-ad-Din Zenki faced the Crusaders. And he said, yes, he told me what you did. When you were in dua of qiyam, in the last third of the night, and in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you said, Ya Allah, bring victory to Islam. don't bring victory to Mahmud. Who is it, Mahmud, that deserves you to bring victory to? He was telling Allah, don't deprive the Muslims of victory because of the likes of me. And when Nuruddin heard that, he started crying. And indeed, that day, the situation was reversed. Salahuddin succeeded in putting down the coup and the revolt in Cairo. He sent, they say, he sent a fire-throwing machine, huge fire-throwing machines to Dumyat. And the wind blew in such a way inward that they started throwing fires on the ships of the Crusaders. And the fire indeed went on the ships, and all the ships started burning. So when the Crusaders saw that, they were confused. They made an attack against them, defeated them on land. As they were escaping, a storm came, and the ships collided together and sank. The crusade ended in 2 days. 14 days of fighting ended in 2 days. And that was the very first year Salahuddin ruled Egypt. After that, it was clear what to do next. The Ismaili Khilafah cannot stay. And Nuruddin Zinki and Salahuddin announces on Jum'ah prayers, the year 567. The khutbah in Egypt was given to the Ismaili Khilafah. That day, it was changed. All of a sudden, the Khatib came up, and he makes dua to the Abbasi Khilafah. For the first time in 300 years. For 300 years, the Ummah has been divided. For the first time, 200 or 300 years, that now the entire Ummah, most of it is unified under the Abbasi Khilafah. When this happened, Salahuddin didn't wait. Not only did he announce that, he started going to Al-Azhar. The Ismailis are the one that built Al-Azhar to spread their creed. He changed it. He now turned the Azhar back to the Sunnah. Madhab al-Imam Malik, Madhab al-Imam al-Shafi'i. He turned that institution. He removed all the Qudah, all the judges of the Ismaili. He removed all their men out of the castle. The Ismailis were not happy with this. So they started a plot again against Salahuddin. And the plot this time was very serious. They contacted the Crusaders in Jerusalem, the Kingdom of Jerusalem. They contacted the Crusaders of the islands of Sicily. And they made a plot of 4 different parts actually. Part number 1, the Crusaders will attack from the north. They attack the city of Alexandria. While they amass 50,000 soldiers, they will attack from the south. And at the same time, they contacted the assassins. Remember the assassins? This deviant sect that used to kill people. They were not happy with Salahuddin. He abolished the Ismaili Khilafah. So they contacted the assassins. And they said, we'll choose a time that he's fighting the Crusaders in Sham when he's away, and the assassins would kill him. And they plotted an internal revolt in Cairo with some people that are loyal to them. 4 different things that Salahuddin had to encounter. One interesting thing, the revolt they plotted in Cairo, Salahuddin knew about. How? When you read the books and they tell you, a person called Al-Wa'id ibn Najah, I wrote his name down here, is a scholar of the Hanbali fiqh, a student of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. And Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani sent this student long before Salahuddin would come to Egypt. And he was in Cairo. The Ismailis there trusted him. They thought he's with them. So they included him in their plot. You know, like, come with us. And he said, yes, what are you doing? And he heard all their plot. And then he went to Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, revealed the plot and all the names of what was going on. So Salahuddin succeeded in capturing all those people that were plotting against him. But little does he know, as he was, subhanAllah, at this time, another thing happened. Nuruddin Zinki, this great sultan, died in the year 569. At this crucial time, it is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This just king, this just ruler of the Muslims died. And the situation in Sham, and this is also very important to what we will be discussing today, the situation in Sham seemed hopeless. Why? People started to divide again. Damascus ruled by one party, Aleppo by another party, Halab and Mosul by another party. And they invited Salahuddin, come to like help us. So Salahuddin left Cairo to go to Damascus to see what's going on there. On the way there, the assassins attacked. But alhamdulillah, some of the emirs of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, they doubted them. They didn't recognize them. So the first one attacked Salahuddin, the first emir encountered him and killed him. And then a second person tried to attack Salahuddin, they encountered him and killed him. The third person attacked, they encountered him and killed him, circled Salahuddin and took him away. The first plot of the assassins failed. But it didn't end there. At this point, Salahuddin receives a news. Alexandria, the city of Alexandria, 200 ships came. 50,000 crusaders, 1,500 knights, 40 ships just to supply them. And they're now surrounding the city of Alexandria. So Salahuddin left and started heading to Alexandria, ordered everyone of his soldiers in Egypt, head to Alexandria. Right? And as he's heading back, the people of Alexandria at this point, they started, let's go out and fight them. We'll not let the Crusaders come down. And the opinion of the people was no. Leave them to land. Maintain the fort. Maintain the walls of Alexandria. Stay inside. So they stayed inside. It is said that the Crusaders, when they landed, it is said, like in our books of history, they were surprised. Why? They said, this is not the Alexandria we're familiar with. Why? For the last 5 years, when Dumyat was attacked, Salahuddin noted, my portal cities are exposed. So he fortified all his portal cities in such a way that when they went down, they were shocked. The walls, the fortification, the trenches, the amount of the army, they're well trained, the equipment they have, the fire throwing engines. It said the Crusaders were amazed at this. They started attacking the city, but their attack failed. They started attacking again, the attack failed. And the next day, soldiers started to arrive to the city of Alexandria and started to put a fighting front against the Crusader army at Alexandria. At this point, a fight happens. And as they're fighting, they used to fight by day, and at night time they would rest. As they were fighting that day, Salahuddin came. And it was announced, Salahuddin himself finally arrived. When his soldiers heard that, you know what they did? They started to fight by night. Here's an interesting lesson. The soldiers of Salahuddin, Qiyam al-Layl is essential. And this is another interesting thing. Soldiers of Salahuddin used to make Qiyam al-Layl. For them to stay the whole night, it's no problems. We're used to that. We can continue the fight. Actually, when he goes around his soldiers, he used to look to his tents. When he finds a tent and people are praying, he says, from here victory comes. He goes and he sees another tent, the soldiers are sleeping, he says, from here defeat comes. That's Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Tells you about him and his soldiers. So they started fighting by night. The Crusaders couldn't take it. And Salahuddin came, and the major fight happened around the city of Alexandria. And it was said it was a major disaster for the Crusaders. They started getting defeated. They started to retreat. People followed them. And then they started to coal their ships so that they can ride the ships and run away. And it is said, Ibn Athir narrates this, and I don't know how they did that. It was said, the Muslims jumped into the water. I don't know how they did this. And started sinking the ships. I don't know how can a person, I'm not speaking of a small boat, a ship. I don't know what equipment they used, what technique. But they started sinking all the ships. And the Crusaders were isolated on a small hill. By the next day, the entire crusade against Salahuddin was finished. It was a major victory for Salahuddin, a major blow for the Crusaders. At the very same time this was happening in Alexandria, news from the south. The Ismailis, 50,000. An army of 50,000 created a revolt in the south and is heading to Cairo. Salahuddin sends to his own brother, Al-Malik al-Adil, the brother of Salahuddin, take whatever army is left in Cairo, the few army you have, go south immediately, don't wait for me, intercept them. And he goes south, and a huge battle happened between the few soldiers of Al-Malik al-Adil, the brother of Salahuddin, and those 50,000 Ismailis. In this battle, Al-Malik al-Adil, it was said he crushed them. The soldiers of the Ismaili sect, the revolt against Salahuddin was completely crushed. This time, unlike the previous times, they gave them no break. Al-Malik al-Adil kept following them. They go south, he goes after them. They went to Nuba and Sudan, he went after them. He exterminated this Ismaili 50,000 soldiers. After that, you would never see the Ismaili again. That was the end of the sect. That's why the Ismailis, they hate Salahuddin. They call him Kharabuddin. For us, alhamdulillah, he restored the Ummah to a proper creed. But, so all those plots against Salahuddin was foiled. Now things was, as I said, in Damascus and Sham, because of the death of Nuruddin Zenki, and that will lead us, by the way, to a very interesting epic. Many of us don't know that, do you know that the Crusaders tried to attack Al-Medina and Mecca? That we'll see that. That's actually going to happen right now. And it's going to start here. When Nuruddin Zenki died, so people differed. What are we going to do? His son was only 11 years old, Al-Malik al-Salih, very young. So they said, you know, what will we do? The ruler of Damascus and the ruler of Aleppo and the ruler of Mosul. They said maybe we should unite around the son of Nuruddin Zenki. One of the servants of the son of Nuruddin Zenki tried to take the matters in his own hand. He went with the son of Nuruddin Zenki to the city of Aleppo, Halab. And once he reached there, he overthrew the ruler, took control in the name of Al-Malik al-Salih, and started doing what? Taking control for himself. So the people in Damascus, they were like, what are we going to do now? Clearly this is a plot. So they sent to Salahuddin, come, come take control. Salahuddin left Egypt with 700 knights, all the way to Damascus, just 700. And 700, because some of the secular people, they tell you Salahuddin was plotting to take, by force the kingdom of Nur. It's not true. He went with just 700 knights. And once he reached Damascus, they opened the door for him. He entered. The Qadi and the scholars, he was raised there. They came to him, delivered the city for him. And he said, I'm not here to rule as Salahuddin. I'm here to rule under Al-Malik al-Salih, the son of Nuruddin Zinki. Let's all unite. And he went to the city of Mosul and the city of Human. They did the same thing. They opened the door, Salahuddin enters, just 700 knights. Nothing more. He enters there, they gave him control. Alhamdulillah, they gave him control. At this time, this person called Sa'd-ad-Din Kamishtakin in Aleppo, the one that is trying to take things in his hand, was not happy. So he called the person in Mosul, and they formed an allegiance. And he said, you know what? Salahuddin is going to take everything in his own hands. No, we should be ruling. It takes one person sometimes to create a fitna. One. And this is what was happening. So they amassed a huge army, and they said Salahuddin has only 700 knights. Easy. So they got about 6,000 to 10,000, army. And they went against Salahuddin. Salahuddin meets them, and the first thing he says, I don't want any fight. What do you want? I'll give you all the cities. Take everything I have, just leave for me Damascus. Why? Because he was engaged in fighting the Crusaders, and you can tell from the map, he needs a base that's close to them. He told them, just leave the city of Damascus, we all rule under Al-Malik al-Salih. He said, no, we'll take everything from you. And then they started attacking. Salahuddin, it is narrated that he said, those people, they don't know what they're doing. Their soldiers are in this array. So he ordered Taqiyuddin attack with 700 knights. And 700 knights, they attacked. Those people started, I don't know, the army was not organized. They got defeated and ran away. Salahuddin didn't follow. He left them. Those are Muslims. It is not about killing Muslims, very important. Then he followed to the city of Halab, trying to reach Al-Malik al-Salih, the son of Nuruddin Zinki. Now, Sa'd-ad-Din Kamishtakin started putting a stand against him. Salahuddin has two choices. What are you going to do? Are you going to storm the city by force? That can create a fitna. And this is very important. He can. But this will create a fitna. It will be Salahuddin against, they make it look that way. They make it look, Salahuddin is fighting the son of Nuruddin Zinki. That's a bigger fitna. So he chose not to fight. He waited, just surrounded the city. Sa'd-ad-Din Kamishtakin did two things. He sent to him, told him, truce. And how did he do that? He sent the daughter of Nuruddin Zinki, 7 years old. He sent her out. Salahuddin saw the daughter of Nuruddin Zinki, 7 years old. He said he stopped and he started crying. He remembered Nuruddin Zinki. He loved Nuruddin Zinki. And he told the daughter, what do you want? She said, they want truce. He said, truce. And then they told this 7 years old that doesn't understand anything, ask Salahuddin to give you the fort of I'zaz and this citadel and this fort and this city. So she came out and she repeated the same thing. I want the city of I'zaz. I want whatever she said. It's yours. It's yours. It's yours. The loyalty of Salahuddin to Nuruddin Zinki is clear. Don't let modern day scholars let us doubt that ever. It's not true. But Sa'd-ad-Din Kamishtakin did two other things. He contacted the assassins, killed Salahuddin on his way back. And the second thing, which will change the map now, he had in Aleppo, Halab, Nuruddin Zinki captured earlier a lot of the heads of the Crusaders, their leaders, and he started releasing them. Why? He released those leaders of the Crusaders so that they can go back and create what? A diversion for Salahuddin. One of the people that was captured by Nuruddin Zinki is Arnat, Rayyanad. And this person will be responsible to change everything. This is a war criminal, captured by Nuruddin Zinki, imprisoned in Halab for 10 years. This figure called Sa'd-ad-Din Kamishtakin released Arnat. Just to let you know what Arnat is like, this Rayyanad. 15 years ago, when he used to rule Anitok in the north, he wanted to attack some of the islands of Rhodes in the Mediterranean, small islands, under the control of the Orthodox Christians, the Byzantine Empire. They're supposedly Christians, but he wants money, he wants wealth. So what does he do? He goes to the priest of Anitok and tell him, I need wealth, I need to make a fleet to attack this island. And the priest told him, I can't give you the money of the church, this is not allowed. What does he do to his own priest? He tortured the priest, started torturing him, and then he started to bleed. He tied him, threw him in the desert, and covered the wounds of this priest with honey. You know what happened? Desert, honey, wounds, bugs. Scorpions, you name it. Scorpions, flies, his body became infested with thousands. I mean, sisters might, this is torture. And the priest couldn't handle, so he gave him everything. Arnaud took the money, made his fleet, and went and attacked, surprised the island of Rhodes. They said he went down, he killed everyone. He killed the men, women were raped, he killed children, he destroyed all the crops of the island, anything he could not take, he destroyed. The monks and the priests, the Orthodox Christians, he cut their noses and sent them to the emperor in Constantinople, with their noses cut and their ears cut. This is the figure I'm speaking about. When he was released, he went all the way to the south, you can see it there, in a citadel called Al-Kark. And he ruled there. Now, Arnaud or Reynald had an idea. He said, this Salahuddin al-Ayyubi keeps attacking us, I have to put an end to this. And he thought of an idea. Well, if you look to the map, Al-Kark is very south, right? What should I do? If you go south of Al-Kark, what's there? In Medina. And he had, okay, I have a plan. Astaghfirullah, this is what he said. People don't know that. I'm going to go to Medina, attack it. Dig the grave of their prophet. Carry his body and carry it back to Al-Kark. So when they come to me to visit him, he planned to attack in Medina and Mecca to put an end to this. Like, we'll destroy Muslims in Mecca and Medina, they're right there. This is what he was planning. And how he did it? He did not want to go by land. So he had a plan. He went inside Al-Kark and started building ships, big ships. And then he, if you will, took them apart, carried them on camels all the way to the Red Sea. There's a small port on the Red Sea called Ayla, under Salahuddin's control. He attacked, took this small port, threw the ships in the Red Sea, and you can see the Red Sea there. This is the Red Sea. Right, Medina is here. So he goes to the Red Sea, throws the ships there, and now you have all of a sudden a fleet, a crusader fleet in the Red Sea. And with the Red Sea, it is very fast to go south, land, and you're about 200 miles off, or 100 miles off Medina, at the port of Yanbu. And that was his plan. On the way, he met so many ships. They said that the Muslims in the Red Sea, they weren't used to crusaders in the Red Sea. Crusaders are in the Mediterranean. And every ship he would find, you know, like a pirate, you know, the pirates of the Caribbean, you have the pirate of the Red Sea. Many pirating acts, ships left and right, he sinks them and overtakes them, sinks them and overtakes them. At this point, the news reaches Salahuddin, who was busy fighting in a Sham area. He sends immediately to one of his leaders, and I wrote his name down, Hassan one of the leaders of Salahuddin. Salahuddin, since he took Egypt, he made sure to have a very strong fleet. And he assigned one of his men, one of the best men, Hassan as the leader of this fleet. Hassan Lolo, we discussed that last time, he used to give charity every day. His charity was 12,000 loaves of bread every day. Tells you something about this character. He sent to him immediately, don't wait for him, don't wait for me, go to the Red Sea, stop Arnaud. And Hassan Zinki takes a group of knights, and the ships of Salahuddin had ability to carry horses. He had those kind of ships. Muslim invention again. Anyway, they go and they ride the ships, and a chase happens now between Arnaud and the ships of Salahuddin. Arnaud reaches the port of Yanbu first, lands, and his knights go down, shortly followed on pursuit day and night. They're not sleeping, by the men of Hassan Lolo. They land after them. They go down, they deploy the horses. They start running with this small army. They meet the army of Arnaud few kilometers or few miles off El Medina. And the battle happens between the army of Arnaud and the small force, elite force, SEALs, you know, the Navy SEALs. You will? Those are SEALs, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. And by Allah's grace, the men of Hassan al-Din, they said they exterminated the campaign of Arnaud. Only Arnaud and few men succeeded in escaping and heading all the way back to Al-Kark. Salahuddin, hearing this, this is something he could not wait for. So he took his army and started directing himself to this citadel called Al-Kark of Arnaud to attack him. When he did that, the Crusaders united. And Salahuddin realized that. He could not attack Arnaud alone. By the way, another thing that tells you about the character of Salahuddin, he goes to Al-Kark, which is where Arnaud is, and he puts his siege engines around, you know, the catapults, and starts throwing stones. A message comes from Al-Kark. What's going on? Arnaud's stepdaughter is getting married today. So can you please spare us? What does Salahuddin do? He asks, which section of the city is she getting married in? And they describe it is that section. He tells all his soldiers, you can throw stones everywhere except in that section. I want you to see this. This is the person who was attacking the Prophet. I mean, this is his stepdaughter. They are not a role model for us. This is Ihsan. This is Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. This is his character. This is victory. But when he's doing this, he finds all the Crusaders united, the Kingdom of Jerusalem, Tarabols, they united, and a huge army appears. He wasn't ready for that, so he takes a step back to face them. But then they go inside Al-Karak. They choose not to face Salahuddin. At this point, he realizes, Muslims, we lack unity. So he head back to the city of Aleppo, Halab. And look, subhanAllah, by the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At this time, Salahuddin Kamashtakin was arrested by the son of Nuruddin Zenki, and he killed him. But the son of Nuruddin Zenki died, natural death, at the age of 17. And he goes to the city of Halab and tells them, we need to unite. And they agree, and he enters the city of Halab. He goes to the city of Mosul, and they tell him, didn't you see what Arnat is doing? We need to unite against him. And they agree, and they unite, and all of a sudden, because of Arnat, I want you to see this, the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How did this start? A person called Salahuddin Kamashtakin wants to take power in Halab. He releases Arnat to create a diversion for Salahuddin. Arnat wants to create havoc in the Muslim world. He attacks Al-Medina. It becomes the reason why Muslims unite. So Muslim united, you see that? Because of the plot of Salahuddin Kamashtakin. Because of the plot of Arnat. Again, إِنَّهُمْ يَكِيدُونَ كَيْدًا وَأَكِيدُ كَيْدًا. They plot and I plot. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of the planners. No matter what they plan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan is over everyone. In any case, so finally Salahuddin unifies the army. At this time, news come to him. Arnat went out of Al-Kark and attacked pilgrimage. People were going on pilgrimage to Mecca. Right? And he intercepted them, and he attacked them. And there was a treaty that they were not supposed to attack pilgrimage. And he captured them all and got them to Al-Kark and threw them in the prison. And they said, what about the treaty? We had a treaty. And he started mocking them, and started mocking Islam, and started mocking the Prophet. And he told them, قُولُوا لِمُحَمَّدِكُمْ يُخَلِّصُكُمْ. Tell your Muhammad to come and free you. And he started mocking the Prophet. When Salahuddin heard this, he swore that if Allah grants him Arnat, Reynal, he will kill him himself. And at this point, Salahuddin announces through the entire Ummah a major call for jihad. Everyone, come, we're going to face the Crusaders in a decisive battle. Army started forming. Salahuddin now unites the army of Sham, gets the army of Egypt, more than 20,000-30,000, the biggest army he ever had. The Crusaders realized that. They started to amass all their armies. And they go to the citadels around Al-Kark in a place called Safuriya, and they go inside the forts to fortify the forts. And then one of them, Raymond of Tripoli, he tells them, I never saw an army like the army of Salahuddin before. I fought Muslims, but I never saw an army like this. Don't go out and fight him. Make sure to protect your cities. Don't fight him. And again, what does Arnat say? Arnat, this, with the master of the Templars, they both say, what are you saying? Are you afraid? What is that? Because he has a great army. They are like wood and we are like fire. More wood, the fire will burn more. And they started telling him, we have to go out. Salahuddin's plan was very simple. He went to a citadel beside Al-Kark called Tabariya. It's by the lake of Tabariya. And this city had the wife of Raymond. And he told his men, lay siege to the city, but don't take it yet. His plan was very simple. I'm going to, apply pressure. Basically, his message is the following. If you guys stay in the forts, I'm going to take your cities one by one. He wanted to put enough pressure so that they would come out and fight. And the plan succeeded. Arnat couldn't take it. Raymond told them, it is my wife that's in Tabariya. Leave. You can't face Salahuddin. He's so strong. Leave her. He's a gentleman. He won't do anything bad. But they chose again Arnat and the Templars and the Hospitallers under the zeal. We'll go out. We'll destroy him. And they started going out. An army of 60,000. All the Crusaders, they amassed everything. And they started marching against Salahuddin. Salahuddin, that's exactly what he wanted. He sent Taqiyuddin, his nephew, one of the greatest knights of Salahuddin. He sent him with a part of the army and started attacking the rear. And he knew it was summertime. And the distance between their place, Safuriya, and Tabariya is desert. and there is no water supplies. The only water supply is the lake of Tabariyah. So they have to cross this desert in summer. And he made sure. He started attacking the rear of the army. So he slowed them down. The Crusader army became extended over 2 miles. The rear part is fighting Taqiyuddin, and the front part, the king of Jerusalem, at the time called Guy, was at the front. What will he do? Will he continue, meet Salahuddin with half the army? He couldn't. So they decided we have to lay camp. So they pitched their camp, and they stay this night in the desert. Salahuddin, again, his orders, don't let them rest. Attacks by night. Continuous harassment. His soldiers all over the place, attacking them by night time. Do not let them rest. The morning time, Taqiyuddin attacks again. They reach finally, after 2-3 days in the desert, the water supply is extinguished. They reach the lake of Tabariyah. They find Salahuddin standing between them and the water. And now you want water, you have to cross my arm. And Salahuddin's plan was very simple. Just maintain your positions. The night of this battle, this is the battle of Hattin, the most famous battle of Salahuddin. The night of this battle, Salahuddin spends the night in what? Qiyam. Salahuddin and his entire army, this is soldiers. If you tell them you're going to fight tomorrow, regular soldiers, let's go party, it's my last night. It's not this army. This army spends the entire night in Qiyam, in Dua. And he tells them, fight, do not fight for me. People loved Salahuddin. Do not fight for me, fight for Allah. And again, he did what I said. He used to go on the tents, look, everyone is making qiyam. If he sees people sleeping, that's defeat. And in the morning, the Crusaders are so thirsty, they make a massive attack. And again, Salahuddin's orders, repulse the attack. Maintain your position. Taqiyuddin maintains his position. And Salahuddin maintains his position. A fierce battle happens. And the Crusaders at the time, they had what they called the true cross. As according to their beliefs, this is a cross that has some pieces of wood from the true cross that, according to them, Jesus was crucified on. And they believed anyone who has that will have victory. So they got out this cross and started attacking. And the Muslims repulsed the attack. Raymond, desperate for water, he gathers 300 of the best knights. And you know, we spoke about this, the Crusader knight, a fortress of iron. And he arranged them, you know, in a cohesive manner, and they charge. And I want you to imagine 300 knights, the horse in an armor, you know what it looks like, charging together. He wants to break the army at Taqiyuddin's place. You know what Taqiyuddin did? He used the advantage that the Muslims had, their light. He orders his men immediately, create a space, let them pass. So he charges, and all of a sudden the Muslims wait. When he comes in, a passage happens, and he finds himself, he penetrated the army, reached Lake Tabariyah. And then Taqiyuddin orders, now close the gap. And Raymond looks back, he finds the water is in front of him, and in his back, the entire army of Taqiyuddin is isolated. Taqiyuddin left him one passage, one escape. And Raymond takes the 300 knights, he realized this is it. And they choose to escape. He escapes all the way to Tarabulus, Tripoli. By the way, those were the only survivors of the battle. Nobody else escaped this battle. Next day, they start fighting. And the Muslims succeed in taking the true cross. And once the Christians saw the true cross fell to the hands of the Muslim, the foot soldiers lost hope. We have been so thirsty. And the Muslims started now to attack. And they used a technique called bonfires. They noticed it is the desert, it is very dry. You know California fire, when things are dry, and you know how the smoke. They did the same thing. They gathered a lot of dry plants. And the wind was blowing against the Crusaders, and they set them to fire. And it said the fire went into the eyes of the Crusaders. So heat, no water, fire, attack, they started falling back. Soldiers started to surrender. 30,000 surrendered to Salahuddin. The knights started to protect their king, and they started to retreat. They went to a hill, and Salahuddin went after them. And they went on top of this hill. They succeeded in pitching one tent, the tent of their king, King Guy of Jerusalem. He was in this tent. And all the remaining knights, the Templars, the Hospitallers, the strongest of knights were around him. And it is said, the son of Salahuddin tells us this. He narrates, I was with my father in the battle of Hattin. And I saw him in the final moments of the battle when our men was attacking. And they started attacking towards the tent. And I started, we're winning, we're winning, we're winning. And then I saw the knights of the Crusaders attack, and our men fell back. And my father was so upset. And he started saying, Shaitan should not win. Shaitan should not win. And then the men attacked again. And I saw them, they attack, and they were approaching. And I looked to my father and said, we won. And then I looked back, and the Crusaders attack again, and the men fell back. And then at this moment, Salahuddin says, focus on this tent. Focus on this tent. And the men started attacking again, attacking. As they're reaching the tent, he says, I looked to my father and said, we won. My father looked to me, shut up, basically. Like, don't speak anymore. And then he said, we will not win until this tent falls down. And his son says, once he said that, the moment he did this with his finger, the tent fell down. He said, I was amazed. And then I looked for my father, Salahuddin, I couldn't find him. Where did he go? Sujood. Sujood al-shukr. A lesson. When something good, this is a battle. You know the intensity of the battle. This is his natural reaction. When something good happens to me, you know, you take an A in an exam, you get a bonus. Our first response, your first unintellectual response, what comes out naturally? Usually, yay, right? Not Salahuddin. Here is a lesson. This is not a, it's his natural, it tells you about his focus. This is a battlefield. Where is your focus? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bow down in shukr. And everyone was captured. The king guy, the masters of the hospitallers, the master of the Templars, Reynald, Arnaud, everyone was captured. In this battle, they say that the people that looked to the dead, they said nobody survived. 30,000 died. The people that looked to the prisoners, they said nobody died. He captured 30,000. 30,000 was dead. In this night, Salahuddin orders a special tent. Why? The entire night this time. You know, you make qiyam half the night. You make qiyam 1/3 of the night. This night, Salahuddin makes qiyam the entire night. His army, it is said, this night, it was a night of dhikr, dua, Quran, dhikr. The entire army. This is the army of Salahuddin. How Allah broke the Crusaders in one night. Next day, he orders King Guy, he orders Arnaud to his tent. And he gives water to King Guy. Giving water is a sign of what? Salahuddin is a man of honor. If he gives you water, that you're safe. So he gave water to King Guy. He drank and then he gave the water to Arnaud. Salahuddin was upset. I did not give him water, he's not safe. And then he goes to Arnaud and tells him, Kam taghdur, how much do you betray? And he looks to Salahuddin and tells him, this is the habit of kings, and that's what they do. Said Salahuddin was shocked with this lack of honor. And then he swore to kill him. He put his hand on his sword and he told him, one choice, say La ilaha illallah. If he would have said La ilaha illallah, Salahuddin would have spared. And he refuses. Salahuddin takes his sword and fulfills his promise. He kills Arnaud. The king guy was, now they said, started trembling. So he looked to King Guy and tell him, it's not the habit of kings to kill other kings, but this one, he exceeded all limits. That's why this happened to him. You are safe. Safety was granted to them. Salahuddin now focused his attention on what? This, by the way, the Battle of Hittin, the entire Crusader army, no survivors. All the cities now were empty. Nobody to defend them. It was time for Salahuddin to go, you would think now Jerusalem. This is not what he did. He started with the coastal cities. Why? Those are the cities that supply Jerusalem through the sea from Europe. All cities started to fall. Akka, Qaisariya, Gaza, Asqalan. Salahuddin would show up, and it was said he would show up. They start to resist, Salahuddin starts to attack, and they would, we want to surrender. And he would say, what do you want? You're free. Give me the city, go free. All of you. And his soldiers objected. This is not fair, you know, like you're letting the soldiers out, like, but Salahuddin, his generosity, he broke them, that's it. He's not interested in further bloodshed. He used to say, it is better to make an error in forgiveness than to be right in punishment. And the city of Akka surrenders, all the cities surrender, and he lets everyone out. And winter was coming. The last city on the coast is the city of Tyre, Sur. He started to surround it. He puts a resistance. And people tell him, winter is coming. Take care of Jerusalem first. Leave it. And he chooses to leave the city of Tur. And we'll see that will be a problem in a while. And he heads to the city of Jerusalem. When he heads to the city of Jerusalem, he receives a message from a knight, the knight of the Hospitallers, the master of the Hospitallers at this time, Balian, very well-known figure. Salahuddin goes, surrounds Jerusalem, and he tells him, my wife is inside, and I need to go to get my wife. Do I have your permission? Salahuddin grants him permission. You're allowed to go and get your wife. You're allowed to stay one night under one condition. You do not fight against me. You go inside, get your wife, and come out. I give you my permission. Balian goes inside, Balian. And once he goes inside, everyone was like, Balian, the master of the Hospitallers. Salahuddin is surrounding us. It said there were 60,000 inside. You have to lead this defense against Salahuddin. And he said, I can't. I gave my word. And they tell him, what is a word to an infidel? And he says, I can't. So he was touched by Salahuddin. And he sends to Salahuddin, I told you I won't fight, but everyone is telling me it's my duty. Salahuddin sends back, if it is your duty, then be it. You're free from your promise. You can fight me. And he said, what about my wife? She's in Jerusalem. What does Salahuddin do? Your wife, she can come out. And I will provide a Muslim escort from my soldiers to take her all the way to the city of Tur, so that you know that she's protected. Remember what they did in 1099? People that attended here last time? Look at the difference. This is Salahuddin. And Salahuddin starts attacking the city. Unlike the movie, Kingdom of Heaven. I know you guys, it's not what happened. Actually, Salahuddin breaches the walls. What he did, they said 40 catapults. They throw like stones and arrows, massive army. They said when arrows and stones were thrown, the people could not see the sun. And then he sent a brigade, an engineering brigade, the famous technique. They started digging under the wall. And they dig under the wall till they reach the foundation. And then they put the wooden pillars under the walls of Jerusalem. And then they set it to fire. Once this happened, the walls fell. And the city was exposed. Next day, Balian realized, unlike what the movie does, the situation is hopeless. Salahuddin is going to take the city by the sword. So he goes out to Salahuddin and tells him, let's have a truce. And he threatens Salahuddin, if you don't agree, we are going to destroy everything in the city. We have 3,000 Muslim prisoners. We're going to kill all of them. We're going to kill our women, our children. We're going to destroy everything in Aqsa Mosque, everything inside. Then we're going to come out and fight you. And none of us will die except some of you will die. You have to accept truce. Salahuddin looks to his fuqaha and rulers around him, and all of them agree the importance of this city. Leave them, give them truce, leave them. And Salahuddin agrees, and he says, you're free, all of you, to come out. The financial advisors of Salahuddin, by the way, it's said that Salahuddin people used to hide his money from him. Why? Because if he sees money, he gives it away. Generous. So the financial advisors were very upset. We spend so much on the war, like the treasury is empty. At least everyone coming out should pay 1 dinar. There are 60,000 people inside, right? So 60,000 dinar. If it's an emir, 10 dinar. And Salahuddin said, fine, it's 1 dinar. Okay. And they made the agreement. And people started coming out. Now what happened? As people are coming out, the rich are coming out, and the poor are not coming out. So Salahuddin and his soldiers noticed this. What kind of people are those? They're not spending their money on their own poor people. Salahuddin comes, and his brother, Malik al-Adil, comes and says, give me 1,000 of the poor people. Why? I'm going to pay for them. Here is 1,000 dinar. Let them out. Salahuddin was like, they start letting the people out. As Salahuddin is standing, a woman comes and starts shouting at Salahuddin, this beloved Sultan of the Muslims, murderer! Murderer! People were so upset. And this is our Sultan. Any other Sultan, they would probably kill this woman. They said, leave her, leave her. What do you want? And she said, you killed my father in the Battle of Hittin. You arrested my brother, he's a prisoner of war. And you asked me to pay 1 dinar. You know what Salahuddin said? Bring the prisoners. Where is your brother? As for your brother, he's free, take him. As for your dinar, I'm paying it. You're free to go. As for your father, he died in an unjust war that he started. The woman started doing what? She stopped. She started crying, telling him, sir, I apologize. I apologize for everything. And I curse the people that told us about you what they said. You're nothing like that. At this point, Salahuddin enters and he sees what? Women are crying. And he asks, why are they crying? Remember how the Crusaders entered the city? When he enters, why are those women crying? And they say, those are the widows of the soldiers that fought you in the battle of Hittin. Salahuddin starts weeping, and then he says, all the women that their husbands died fighting me, they are exempt. As a matter of fact, he paid them from his own pocket, gave them gifts. They're allowed to live free. And they will be escorted wherever they want. All the prisoners, bring prisoners. Any woman, if you find your husband, take him and go free. At this point, the priest of Jerusalem is coming out. And Al-Ahmad al-Asfahani, a scholar, besides Salahuddin, was so upset. The priest is coming with tons of gold around him. And he said, he's upset, he's not paying for the poor people. And he said, we allowed them to go out with their personal belonging. This is the property of the church. It's not his personal belonging. Confiscate it, take it away. And Salahuddin said, no, we gave them a promise. Let it be known that Muslims never break their promise. Salahuddin, the victory of Salahuddin, let him pass. And he passes. And then Salahuddin enters the city, Jerusalem. He enters on the night of 27th of Rajab, the same night where Muslims celebrate Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, the same night that the Prophet, and it's not authentic, I know that, but if you take that, it is the same night that the Prophet went on his journey of Isra, and Salahuddin enters. And I want you to imagine his state of heart now, entering the city of Jerusalem. And he starts doing what? Praying and crying. Praying and crying. And they head for Masjid al-Aqsa. They head to the Masjid al-Aqsa and they said they found a shop. It has been converted to a stable. A part of it, like stable for horses, a part of it is a storage. They found a cross on the Masjid al-Aqsa. Some people were so offended. Masjid Umar ibn al-Khattab was destroyed. And they come to Salahuddin, destroy their church. Knisat al-Qiyamah, destroy it. Look at the focus of Salahuddin. One word. أقرها عمر وأهدمها أنا. Umar ibn al-Khattab left it alone. And you want me to destroy it? No. That is the victory of Salahuddin. That's the magnanimity of Salahuddin. That is Hilm. That is Islam. Muslims raise up. They bring the cross down. Taqiyuddin, the nephew of Salahuddin, enters the masjid, it's narrated, with perfumed water, starts cleaning the walls himself. The Ubbad and Zuhad, everyone rushes inside. Salahuddin was in a state of tears. I looked what was, and his state was the following, described by one person, Surah An-Naml. ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه. Continuously pleading, Ya Allah, grant me the ability to thank this blessing that you bestowed on me. He saw this as a blessing from Allah. Any leader, when he conquests, what do you see? My, right? Salahuddin was not in that state. His focus was the mercy of Allah made me, you understand? This is a favor the likes of Umar ibn al-Khattab achieved. Allah chose Salahuddin. He saw that as a huge favor. I can't thank enough for it. All his dua was, Ya Allah, please enable me. How can I thank? It is even written, if you go to the Masjid al-Aqsa, you find written in it in Arabic, أمر بتجديد هذا المحراب المقدس, order the renewal of this holy place, الذي هو على التقوى, the one on taqwa, صلاح الدنيا والدين, that's what they wrote. صلاح الدنيا والدين. When Allah opened this on his hands, not when he opened it, when Allah granted him and bestowed on him to open this place, and he is asking Allah for Allah's forgiveness and asking Allah to enable him to thank these blessings and make his bounty of Allah's rahmah plentiful. That's where Salahuddin's heart was. And I finish with this Jum'ah prayers. Next day, the first Jum'ah in Masjid al-Aqsa. Can you imagine? And all the ulama and fuqaha around Salahuddin praised. And he chooses Muhyiddin ibn Zaki, the Hanbali scholar, the Qadi of Damascus. He chose him to give the khutbah. And he comes up. And the khutbah is, alhamdulillah, those who can read Arabic, I have it, it's recorded. Can you imagine the army of Salahuddin? Salahuddin is sitting, and the first Jum'ah prayers in an Aqsa mosque. Just put your heart there. And he starts by Alhamdulillah. He starts قُطِعَ دَابِرُ الْقَوْمِ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. The first 30-40 lines all the ayat of hamd and praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one after the other, one after the other. Then he looks in his khutbah and tells Salahuddin and the army to mind this blessing and ni'mah that Allah gave to you after the like of Umar ibn al-Khattab. Do not think that it's your swords or shields that made you come here. It is Allah. Know the favor of Allah and be thankful for Him. And I won't go through it. At the end of it, it's the usual thing, they make dua for the Khalifa. At the end of it, he makes the dua for the Khalifa. Then he looks and looks to Salah. Can you imagine Salahuddin sitting there? And then he starts making dua for Salahuddin. Oh Allah, guard the flag of Salahuddin. Oh Allah, like you bestowed this hasana on him in this life, this hasana is perishing. Bestow al-Jannah, Jannat al-Firdaus, which is everlasting on him. Ya Allah, respond to his dua. When he is asking you, Ya Allah, grant me the ability to thank you and worship you. I want Salahuddin was in tears. Everyone came congratulating Salahuddin, left and right. The Muslim Ummah, Jerusalem is back. Can you imagine? Waves of congratulations. But that was not the end. Many see this is the victory of Salahuddin. The victory of Salahuddin is yet to come. When this happened, the news went to Europe. What happened? The Pope was outraged, called for a massive crusade. France and like France and England, they always fight. When they heard the news, Richard the Lionheart, Philippe Augustus of France, they were fighting. They decided to stop. Both of them. Barbarossa, the king of Germany, 100,000 to 200,000 soldiers. William II of Sicily, 22 different nations. The army of Germany alone is 200,000. They estimate, according to us, 600,000 soldiers responded to the Pope. Salahuddin, with his 30,000 now, was about to face one of the most massive crusades ever. Salahuddin is going to face the unified army of Europe. What do you think the Muslims will do? People that congratulate and, we will see that next, inshallah. So what will happen? A battle. 2 years battle around the city of Akka. Who will win? Salahuddin or the Crusaders? Richard the Lionheart or Salahuddin? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خيرا. You can see that clearly there is a dimension of khuluq, characteristics of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Not only is he a powerful warrior, but his characters, his hilm, his forbearance, his patience, his ihsan, his manners is something that's praiseworthy. And I want you to also realize this is not from thin air, it's from the scholars he's with. One of the scholars of the time, and I wrote his name down, of the time of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, Sheikh Ahmed al-Rifa'i, great Sheikh Ahmed al-Rifa'i. Imam al-Dhahabi in Sayr A'lam al-Nubala, if you go and read the biography of Sheikh Ahmed al-Rifa'i, it will tell you, and I'll give you one story that relates, I think, to what we're saying. It tells you Sheikh Ahmed al-Rifa'i once was sitting, and a very famous Sheikh, very pious, and he's such in a state in the masjid. And because of his state, a kitten, small kitten, comes, and he's sitting, and his sleeve is long, and the kitten chooses, she feels alhamdulillah comfortable. And she comes and sits on the sleeve of Sheikh Ahmed al-Rifai while he's speaking. This is the time of the crusades, time of the fight, right? This is the environment, right? So he leaves the kitten, continues to speak. And then, time for salah. What does Sheikh Ahmed al-Rifai do? And that's the Imam al-Dhahabi, Sir Alam al-Nubala. Sheikh Ahmed al-Rifai cut his sleeve so that the kitten continues sleeping. Then he went, they prayed. And then he came back, the kitten was still sleeping. And he got a needle and, like, stitched his sleeve back and said, nothing changed. And continued. I mean, that tells you something. Those are the shuyukh. It's not about ilm. It's not just about ilm here. The khuluq. This goes to the students. The same Sheikh Ahmed al-Rifai once saw one of his students, a bug, qamla, a bug like a tick or something, and it bit him. So he got, what's your reaction? If a mosquito comes, and what happens? Right? And he saw that. And it's not just that he's killing, anger. So Sheikh Ahmed al-Rifai stopped him. Shafaytu ghaydak? Billah, what are you doing? Did you extinguish your anger and wrath? No. A mosquito came to Sheikh Ahmed al-Rifai and he stood. And the mosquito bit him and left. What was he doing? Is it halal to kill a mosquito? It's about, he noticed something in him. When a mosquito comes and bites me, what's my reaction? Tells a lot about me. Anger. Curbing my anger. You can see Salahuddin and his forbearance. How he's forbearant. How he's calm. This disease of anger. We are an angry nation. We are. Right? And I can tell, I saw it like one of the shuyukh, like, may Allah increase him in knowledge. And I noticed this in one of the retreats, like mosquitoes in summer. And I noticed myself, a mosquito comes and my natural reaction, quickly, I look to some of my friends and their natural reaction and look at their reaction. It tells a lot. It's, like, there's anger. It's not about killing, it's anger, you know what I mean? And then I look to the Shaykh, and he's speaking, and the mosquito comes. When a mosquito comes from me, I quickly. And the natural response was what? Like this, that slow. Some of us know who I'm speaking about. I will not mention the name of this Shaykh. But that's something to learn. Who today is teaching such kind of things? Those are shuyukh. Those are shuyukh that teach us ihsan. When killing an ant is not allowed. Killing a mosquito, not with wrath, for a reason. And you better have one. And you better try not to kill it first. We're an angry nation. And I'm saying that it reflects on us. I'll give you a personal reflection. The Gaza 2008, remember? What? You see Salahuddin, you know what the Crusaders did? You remember in 1099 when they entered, and you know what Arnott did? And what the wife of Arnott, when Salahuddin took Jerusalem, the wife of Arnott came. And what do you want? And she told him Arnott's kid, Arnott's son is one of the prisoners. What does Salahuddin do? Take him, he's free. The wife of King Guy, the king that fought him, comes. My husband. You want your husband? Under one condition. Promise not to fight me. And he releases him. We are not like this. We are angry. When Gaza 2008, if you remember, when the situation happened, and it's an unjust war, and you see, what do we see? We see Israelis killing Palestinians. That's not what those people saw. Where is Allah? What are you focused on? Salahuddin is focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what those scholars taught. Your focus is on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is happening with His permission. What's the message? Don't be veiled by the creation. The teaching of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, the creation is a veil between you and yourself. And your own self is a veil between you and Allah. That's our problem. We're veiled by the creation. I see that he brings me harm. She brings me good. He's praising me. He's blaming me. I see people. I see them as in control, as able to do stuff. The teaching of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani is no, that's not Tawheed. Everything is in the hands of Allah. Everyone sitting here, every one of you, your heart is not under your control. As the hadith says, right? We know that. All the hearts are between the fingers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He can turn them no matter, in whatever direction. I'm not in control. I know if you guys praise me, I shouldn't see that you are praising me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did that. If you blame me,
I see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did that. Why? When you see a nation attacking another nation, the first question is, who allowed this to happen? Why? Why? Not that just a nation. And then we're angry. And then we want to do what? Revenge. And I ask you, and I ask myself, why are you angry? They're killing women. They're killing children. The Israelis, right? And that's of course bad. If I ask you, and what are we doing? What are the rockets of Hamas doing? It's killing children too, isn't it? Oh, no, but we're defending. You're like them. The only difference is one thing. What if Allah grants us an F-16? What will happen? Can you imagine if Muslims now, Allah grants us a nuclear weapon? What are you going to use it for? Wipe them out, right? You're like them. The only difference is Allah didn't give us the means to do it, and it's out of His mercy. Am I like this? I'm not saying all of you, by the way, I'm directing it to myself. Am I an angry person? Oh, anger for Allah. Anger for Allah is confirmed by Sharia. You don't kill women and children. But they kill women and children. We don't. That's jihad. What did we make? Look at Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Look at us. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, women and children are not to be touched. Some of us, we fail to touch the soldiers, and all what we do is kill women and children and call that jihad. What have we done? What have we done? How can you stand beside Salahuddin al-Ayyubi on the day of judgment? Or Nur al-Din Zinki? Killing women and children in the name of Islam? Jihad became a bad word. Jihad is now about, this is not jihad. Go to the scholars, don't forget me, the likes of Ibn Qayyim, that lived in this time. They lived in this time, and they wrote about jihad, 14 levels. 14, the last one is qital. There are 13 different levels, where are they? Anyway, it's something to contemplate on. It's a lesson, maybe we can reflect on. So that it's not, when we see those stories, I want us to reflect. Are we like that? What's the difference? What do we need to gain? What ilm do we need to study? Anyway, so we discussed how Salahuddin al-Ayyubi took Jerusalem. And then after that, everybody's congratulating Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. It was winter time. And all the soldiers are exhausted. And Salahuddin permits all soldiers leave, except his personal soldiers. They call them al-Halaqa. Himself and the men around him. They're not allowed to leave in winter. He's going to continue fighting, continue getting the rest of the cities. He does not rest. Soldiers rest, he does not rest. And the special soldiers group around him. And as they're going, and the situation, they're going towards the city of Tyre, the city of Sur, the only city left on the coast. And as he reaches Akka, Ibn Shaddad, this famous scholar of hadith that accompanies Salahuddin, narrates for us this. He says, I never saw the sea before. Ibn Shaddad says that. I used to read about it. It was my first time to see the open sea, the Mediterranean. And it was winter and it was stormy. He said, I saw the sea and waves, big waves, and the storm. And now I want you to think about this. What is going in the head of Ibn Shaddad and Salahuddin? Both of them are looking to the sea. And he narrates this. He said, what I was thinking about as a scholar, I started to look at the fiqh opinion. There's a fiqh opinion that a sailor, you cannot trust his witness. And I didn't like this. But now, after seeing the sea, I started telling myself, anybody who goes in the sea like this is not in his right mind. Maybe I'm now of the opinion that if a sailor gives me his witness, I won't take it anymore. Because it's crazy. It's impossible for a man to work in such kind of an environment. This is the thought of a scholar, Salahuddin. And he looks to Salahuddin, and Salahuddin, look at where Salahuddin's mind is. He looks to Ibn Shaddad and he tells him the following. In my heart I find it, that whenever Allah grants us, that Allah frees all the Sahel, we take all the cities, I will put leaders, and I will make ships, and I will take the ships, go onto this sea, all the way till Europe. I'll chase the Crusaders all the way through Europe. So Ibn Shaddad said, oh, yes, the Sultan must be very brave. And he said, why? He said, don't you see the sea? Like, how can you think like this? So Sultan Salahuddin, he tells him, I ask you, what is the best way to die? And he tells him, to die in the way of Allah. And he says, that's my utmost goal, is to die in the way of Allah. It tells you about this heart of Salahuddin, his determination, his focus. He doesn't see a rough sea at all. Anyway, they go to next to the city of Sur, Tyre, and it was winter time. Salahuddin tries to lay siege. At this time, one of the leaders, Conrad, arrives at the city of Sur and puts a very stiff resistance. And people tell Salahuddin, the soldiers are exhausted, it's winter time, leave the city, and we'll return again. And they tell you, like most of the scholars and most people tell you, that was the mistake of Salahuddin strategically, that he left the city. Salahuddin, everyone is tired, leave it, we'll come back, don't worry, khalas, they're defeated. Salahuddin left the city. What happened? All the people that Salahuddin freed, including King Guy, he freed him and told him, don't fight against me. The master of the Templars, free him, don't fight against me. All of them went back to the city of Tur. All of them accumulated and an army formed. And surely enough, they did not keep their promise. They started to make a huge army in the city of Sur, and they went out and they headed towards the city of Akka, which you see to the south of Sur, the city of Sur. Why? They want the coast. They know that the help from Europe is coming via ships. So they need to get all the coastal cities. And they started, now this huge army of everyone that Salahuddin freed, they go and now they surround the city of Akka. And news come to Salahuddin, the city of Akka is surrounded. Salahuddin calls back all his army, Taqiyuddin and Saifuddin al-Mashtub al-Hakari, all his leaders. He calls them all, and then let's head for Akka. We cannot leave Akka like this. And they go for Akka. Once they reach Akka, they find the small garrison of Akka now surrounded by the army of the Crusaders. And battles start to happen. The first day, second day, tough battles between the army of Salahuddin and the battle, which we call the Battle of Akka, and the army around Akka. And one day, it was always Salahuddin attacking, and they're putting resistance, Weeks passed, and there is no conclusion. Huge armies and continuous fighting. One day, they were so much used that we're attacking. They were surprised. The Crusaders mounted an attack, and they attacked the right side of Salahuddin's army, which was under the leadership of his nephew, again, Taqiyuddin, this figure. And they attacked him, and he started retreating back. Salahuddin saw that, and some say that this was his plan, the usual plan, retreat to bring them in. But Salahuddin thought he's defeated, so he ordered most of the soldiers in the center, Al-Faqih Isa al-Hakari, his tough soldiers, go help Taqiyuddin. So they left the center and they went to help Taqiyuddin. The center was left with volunteers. The regular troops of Salahuddin was now on the right side, and the center was exposed. When this happened, the Crusaders attacked the center of Salahuddin. The main attack was focused there where Salahuddin was. And it is said the volunteers could not take the attack of the knights. And they started falling back. Ibn Shaddad narrates, I saw Salahuddin, people are running, and he's ordering the drums, carrying the flag, telling them to fight. And finally the Crusaders reached the tent of Salahuddin. They killed some of the scholars there. Jamaluddin ibn Rawaha, actually the grandchild of Abdullah ibn Rawaha, the great companion. That's one of his grandchildren. They found him and they killed him. And the tent of Salahuddin went down, and people started retreating. And Salahuddin is ordering the drums, stand, do not run. And at this point, it was about to be a major defeat. But what happened? What saved the day? The left rank and the right rank, Taqiyuddin and Saifuddin, they made a pincer move towards the center. They both saw this, so they attacked from the rear, and they surrounded the Crusaders. And Salahuddin, seeing this, put up a resistance and got some group of the soldiers that are running and turned them back, and they started attacking. The Crusaders found themselves trapped. This was a major battle around Akka. In this battle, 10,000 of the Crusaders died. It was a huge battle. It lasted for the entire day. And by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it turned around. And the Muslims were very victorious in this battle, to the extent that Taqiyuddin charged and finally reached the walls of the city of Akka. And then an opening happened, and they started supplying Akka, and the communication between the Salahuddin's troop and Akka. But you know what happened next? Because of the huge amount of dead bodies, disease started to spread, epidemic. An epidemic spread. And something interesting to note, the casualties of the epidemic, or this plague, in the Crusader army was much higher than the Muslim army. Why? There is a simple reason, and again, it's a part of this to understand why. Very simple reason. You know what it is? It's called tahara. The Crusaders are not clean. And it's not to put down people. Go study the history of Europe. They were unclean people. The concept of bathing was not something they do. And this time, they learned the art of soap and water from the Muslims, from Spain and the Middle East. As a matter of fact, I saw it personally. I visited Spain once and I saw one of their ships, you know, the galleys. And I was watching it and I found them, they told me we chain people. You know, like the people that row, we chain them. And I said, but, yani, in the ship? And they said, yes, they eat, go, urinate, eat, sleep in the same spot. And they said, not me, they said it stinks so bad that people could tell that there is a crusader ship coming from miles. That's not my words. I went to France. You visit the French palaces, right? Where is the bathroom? No bathrooms. Therefore, French perfume is very important. I'm not joking. Wallahi, it's known. Historians say that. And the Crusaders' army, people used to tell me could smell. They're coming. Salahuddin, on the other hand, we were civilized. The army of Salahuddin had mobile bathrooms. It's not just a group of men fighting. It's like a city. You have a mobile immediately. You're a Muslim, right? You need to make a ghusl, you need to make wudu, you need to be clean. Even while fighting, there is Jum'ah, right? Jum'ah, you have to make ghusl. You have to. So mobile bathrooms. Not only that, they had a souk, a marketplace. They had a qadi to rule among them. Those things were not known to the Crusaders. And as such, the epidemic spread widely in them. And Salahuddin and some of his men started getting sick. And the doctors came, and Salahuddin himself, his health deteriorated. And the doctors came, by the way, the doctor of Salahuddin, something people don't know. You know who the doctor of Salahuddin is? Any clue? Exactly. Maimonides, the famous theologian of the Jew. You know the Jewish theologian Maimonides? All Jews know him. That was the doctor of Salahuddin. Jews lived with Muslims. Salahuddin had a Jewish doctor. Yeah, he's Jewish. It doesn't mean to oppress him. He's a good doctor. Where are we today? They tell us we're intolerant. Look at history. Jews in Europe at this time were not welcomed at all. They lived with Muslims. They lived in Spain, they lived in Jerusalem, they lived in Turkey. That's one thing. So doctors came and told him you cannot stay. It's dangerous for your life. You have to go back. There's a place, there's a hill, you have to take the army back, the epidemic is spreading. And his point was, no, we just defeated them. If I leave them, more supplies are going to come to them, and they're going to fortify their position. We should not leave. Everyone told him, no, leave. They've been defeated so badly that, you know what, maybe if we leave, we'll grant them an opportunity to just leave the area. And he said, no, by Allah, if I leave this army, I know their determination. They're going to entrench, and they're going to surround the city, and the problem is going to increase. But he applied the concept of shura, and he took the advice of everyone. And he left to the place called Tell al-Kharuba with his army. Daily attacks, but he left the place. And exactly what he said happened. The Crusader army entrenched heavily around Akka. Trenches, they started building trenches, small walls, sand walls, and more supplies started coming to them. And Salahuddin at this point told his people, like, I don't have any more people. The only army I have left is my own brother, Al-Malik al-Adil in Egypt. And I already asked him to come, and he's on his way. But we should attack, because that's it. Every day they receive more supplies. I don't have anything anymore. And as we said, he received a message at this point from the king of Germany, telling him, return back all what you took. Or we're going to come to you with armies, and we're going to take every city from you. And the king of Germany had an army of 200,000. And as I said before, Richard the Lionheart of England, Philip Augustus, William, 22 different nations amassed an army. And Salahuddin was going to face this. He sends the reply back. Whomever of you is going to lay one foot here is going to meet the fate of his brothers in Hattin. I'm not afraid of him. And people like around Salahuddin started to get really scared. Hundreds of thousands are coming. And then the news started to spread. Not only are they going to take Jerusalem, I think they're going to take Sham and Egypt, and people started to get scared, and people started backing off. We better not fight. And Salahuddin was left to face this campaign alone. Now you have Europe versus Salahuddin alone. And he started sending. He sent to the Khalifa in Baghdad. He sent all the way to Andalusia, to Morocco. Help. Entire Europe is coming. The German army, 100, 200,000. What will I do? And news started coming that they're coming by land. They landed in Asia Minor, and they started to coming. And he got his commanders, what are we going to do? And all of them said, you know what? We have to face them. There's so many. You have to take the army, leave Akka. Take all the army to face this 100, 200,000 German army. And he said, we can't do that. He orders Taqiyuddin to take a group of his soldiers and say, go face 100 to 200,000 alone. That's tawakkul. That's tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's real reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's left alone. That's victory. That is victory. When you're sure on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you can really, from inside, rely on Him. I have a letter that he sent to the Muslim Ummah. I won't read it. If those of you who are interested, please do. You can read it after that. It applies to us today. He speaks to the entire Muslim Ummah to come and help him. So you can read that. In any case, the army of Egypt starts arriving. And the Malik al-Adil arrives, and Salahuddin is in Tel al-Kharuba. The Crusader army surprised Malik al-Adil. As he's approaching with now the soldiers of Egypt, they charged against him. He wasn't expecting it. And the center of his army started to get defeated and retreat. And Malik al-Adil saw that, and he told his army, he did an interesting trick. He said, you know what? Leave the tents. Leave the booty. I know once they see the booty, they're going to try to take it. And we'll attack them then. So they retreat and leave the booty. Salahuddin orders, and he was terribly sick, orders everyone, we're going to move, I'm going to attack. And the doctor told him, you're sick. He couldn't even stand. At this point, he couldn't sit. He was so sick. And the doctor told him, you have to wait, you can't. So he jumps, and Ibn Shaddad said, I was surprised. Salahuddin jumps on the horse. And he said, I was surprised. And then I looked to him, and he told me, yes, I'm going to wait for the cure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the back of my horse in the battlefield. And then Ibn Shaddad was more surprised, how are you riding a horse? Where is the pain that you used to find? And Salahuddin looks to him, and he tells him, إِذَا رَكِبْتُ الْجِهَادِ زَالَ الْأَلَمْ حَتَّى أَعُودْ. Whenever I ride to struggle in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pain is gone till I come back. His focus, even he could not feel pain. And he rides, and they start attacking. And exactly what happened, what was expected by Malik al-Adil happened. The Crusaders go for the booty. Salahuddin attacks, they surround them, and it's called the Waqa al-Adiliyah. And again, the Crusader army heavily defeated in this, heavily, massive defeat. And from that day, they started to retreat, and they made one point. We're not going to attack the Muslims anymore. They entrenched, and surrounded Akka completely, and waited for reinforcements. It is said, Ibn Shaddad said, that night, the soldiers were exhausted, no break. He said that night, we just killed so many of them. Ibn al-Athir blames Salahuddin, by the way. He tells, he should have continued the attack, but he gave them a break. He couldn't. The soldiers are exhausted completely. And they said, we can't just stop. Let them, next week, tomorrow, we have to rest. And as they do that night, Ibn Shaddad says, and I wanted to imagine him and Salahuddin on this hill looking at Akka, the port of Akka, right? And they said, we started counting Crusader ships coming. 1, 2, 3. Ibn Shaddad said, I counted 70. In one night, if 70 ships, each has 200. How many people arrived that night? 15, 20,000? One night. And he said, I looked on Salahuddin, and he said, with every ship that arrived, his determination increased. His reliance increased. Those are the things I want to... He's describing a practical moment. Fear was not in his heart at all. He's more determined. He's not afraid from them. Any other king would say, it's hopeless. What will I do? I have only 20,000. Look at that. One night they receive all this. What will I do? And then they started to entrench. At this point, they started making trenches, and the sand they take out, they started to make a wall of sand. Why? To protect them from the city of Akka. The leaders of Salahuddin were throwing things at them. So now they have, I wanted to imagine a wall of sand. Can you imagine this? A barrier of sand. And they started, and look at the determinations of the Franks. Every day they would move this wall. Every day they would move it. What are they doing? They're approaching the city of Akka. Under a wall of sand that they move daily. Look at the determination of those people. And Salahuddin is attacking, and they're repulsing his attack and moving towards Akka. And then they surrounded Akka completely. And one day, now Philip Augustus and Richard the Lionheart, they arrive with reinforcements from England and France. And they start building. They said, there's so many battles. I'm just mentioning some of them. By the way, it took 2 years. This battle is a 2-year battle. And we have the date account. Today this happened. Today this happened. Can you imagine? how it's like. Shaddad described it in details. But one thing I will describe, one day they built huge towers that are higher than the walls of Akka. And people inside Akka realized if those towers approach the wall, that's the end. For the garrison of Akka, the men of Salahuddin inside are only 3,000. And they can't resist if the army starts jumping on them. And those 3 huge towers, 5 stories high, they say, full of soldiers, and they started moving them, moving closer and closer. They started throwing fire on them. The army of Salahuddin, you know the catapults, they used to put fire stuff, they call it Greek fire. And they started throwing it at them. But what happened? They were completely covered in iron, vinegar, water, leather, in such a way that nothing happened. The fire did not harm it. And they kept days hitting it, nothing happened. And it's approaching. Till one day, as Shaddad narrates, a young person inside the city of Akka goes to the leader there, the man of Salahuddin, and he tells him, I can take care of this. Let me try. And he said, what are you speaking about? All the engineers, you know, all my specialists, days couldn't do anything. Who are you? And everyone tells him, let him. And there is a lesson there. Let him. This person, while in Damascus, used to play, you know, chemistry. That was his interest. And he used to play with combustion and make combustible materials. And he was so interested in that. And people were like, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. And that was his interest. And that day he was in the city of Akka. And he ordered, get me this, get me that, get me this. Started making a chemical. And everyone is looking. And it looks like water. You know, nothing. And then he told them, throw this water-looking chemical, throw it, just throw it on the towers. And people were like, water? Like, what are you doing? And they started throwing it, and it went on the tower. And they said, the Crusaders, they saw something coming at them, and then it crashes, and something like water falls. They started to mock, and they started to dance, and they started to make fun. Basically, what are you guys doing? Look, it does nothing. And then he told them, now throw fire. And they threw fire. And it said, this material is like an explosion. I don't know what he did. He said, all of a sudden, in a few seconds, the entire tower went on flames. And the first tower was completely destroyed. When the soldiers of the second and third tower saw what happened, they started jumping out from their towers. In a few minutes, the 3 towers were destroyed. It's with the like of this man. Salahuddin ordered his men, who is he? Bring him out. I need to give him gifts. And he said, I didn't do that for you. I did it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With the likes of this youth, victory can come to the ummah. An engineer that knows what he's doing, good in his talent. In any case, to continue, the situation becomes more desperate. And now Akka is completely surrounded. And the army of Salahuddin, they said, we're exhausted. Every day we fight, they receive reinforcements. Every day they have new soldiers. Salahuddin describes, actually in an interesting way, he says, every time we fight the soldiers, a new version comes. Meaning, what does he mean? Today, the soldiers from Norway, dressed in a certain way. Tomorrow, France. Tomorrow, England. Tomorrow, William II. Every day, he said, the soldiers change. And we're the same soldiers. We're exhausted. And he says to the Abbasi Khalifa, help, come lead the battle yourself. It's the battle of Islam, we can't do anything. Of course, he doesn't come. Salahuddin is left alone to handle the situation. And the leaders thought like, the situation is getting desperate. And he orders, we have to find techniques, and there's so many operations, how to supply Akka. One of the things he did, you might find it interesting, he got a ship, and he ordered the Muslim army, like Muslims, shave your beards. Franks are, you know, no beards, so like shave your beards. Anybody who knows Latin, yes, ride on the ship. Get me some pigs, put them on the ship. Get some crosses, put it on you, right? And then get supplies, and then go. Pretend to be a Frankish ship. And they did that, and as they approached Akka, and the guards, the other ships that arrived started approaching them. Where are you heading? So the person replied to them in Latin, right? We're heading for the city of Akka. And they said, what? Salahuddin is still there. We didn't take the city. He said, what? You didn't take the city? What's wrong with you? As if they're blaming him. But then said, you know, you'd better warn this ship behind us because they're heading for Akka, this big ship. You better warn them. So really? So they left them and they went to warn the other ship. And they succeeded in going in, and so many stories like that, techniques used, people that would swim under the ships and come up, but at no avail. And the situation got worse. And one of the things they did, just when they approached the walls of Akka, and the walls now have multiple breaches. There is a trench, you know, a trench before the wall. And there's so many bodies. The Crusaders started throwing dead bodies in the trench. You need a bridge. When you have so many bodies, dead horses, dead men, and they started to fill the trench with bodies. And the people inside Akka realized what's going to happen. If this trench gets filled, they'll cross. And if they cross, they're by the walls. And the walls have breaches, and we cannot repair them fast enough. So they realized that, you know what they did? Just to let you know the determination of those people. They opened the doors. It's Bahauddin Qarakhosh, one of the men of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, the one that built the citadel in Cairo, by the way. Those of you who saw it. Anyway, he charges out. A part of those 3,000 people stand against the Crusaders, holding them. Another part jumps in the ditch, in this khandaq, doing what? Cutting the bodies and throwing them out. Cutting the bodies. I want you to imagine that. Can you imagine dead horses and your job is to go and people are fighting in the sun and heat and you're cutting and throwing, cutting and that's what they had to go through. It's 2 years of this. 2 years. 2 years. And me, can you go to Fajr in the masjid or too hard? ما أخص الهمم. How low is my aspiration? Where is my aspiration? I'm not asking any of you to do this. Can we pray in the masjid? Can you sit after Salah to make dhikr? Can I fast Mondays and Thursdays? No? And then I expect to be that way? Who am I kidding? Those men trained by Salahuddin, by the way, his schools of training soldiers, number one, he has a madrasa called Tanmiyat al-Irada, to nourish the will of the soldiers, to nourish his resolve, to nourish his focus and his aspiration. What do you think he taught? How do you do that? Dhikr. Any soldier of Salahuddin, dhikr is essential. What is the highest form of dhikr? Salah. Salah. Quran. Adhkar. Adhkar al-sabah wal-masa. You have to. It's essential. Your aspiration, your focus, your determination, the dhikr is so essential. He builds the soldier from inside. That's how you have those kind of soldiers. Today, we are not, forget the battlefield. Where are we today from all those things? What am I aspiring for? How strong is my resolve? When I say inshallah, I'm going to fast Mondays and Thursdays. You know, oh, I need to learn Quran, right? Really? Truly? How about after Fajr, daily 1 hour? Oh, too much. Where is truthfulness? Where is my truthfulness in resolve? My truthfulness in seeking Allah? My truthfulness in wanting to be better? Himma. Those soldiers are a completely different caliber, and this is what I'm discussing here. In any case, the situation starts to deteriorate, and leaders around Salahuddin starts telling him, it's hopeless. The city is going to fall. We can't do anything. What can he do? It has been 2 years, we've been fighting, we're exhausted. They surrounded the city completely. Breaches happened in the war. News come to Salahuddin from inside. Permission to make a treaty. Permission to make a truce with the Crusaders, to give up the city. And Salahuddin responds, no. Tomorrow I'm going to attack. Nobody should do this. The city should not be delivered to them. Don't. And all the leaders of Salahuddin is telling him, he tells him, charge. And he tells him, charge what? We've been doing it for 2 years. The resolve of Salahuddin was higher than the resolve of his entire army. It's hopeless. All his leaders. We can't. You have to think otherwise. We can't do it. As they're discussing the next day, they look, they see the Frankish flag on top of the citadel. What happened? The leaders of Salahuddin made a treaty with the Crusaders, in any case. And wallahi, you look to it, and sometimes I say, if I was in their place, 2 years. And the treaty was, they realized if the Crusaders enter, they're going to kill everyone. Those 3,000 men and women, they're going to be dead. So they asked them, you know what, let us leave. And they told them, remember, we were nice to you. Remember how we treated you. Remember how Salahuddin treated people. Allow us to leave. We are going to give you 100,000 dinars. We are going to give you the true cross that we captured. And we're going to give you Akka, the city of Akka. But allow us to leave with our possession and children and women that are with us. And Richard the Lionheart grants them permission. As the doors open and as they're going out, violates this. He captures all of them. All of them are prisoners. And then he sends to Salahuddin. Salahuddin, it said, Ibn Shaddad says, when Salahuddin saw the flag, he said it was like a mother who lost her son. Salahuddin's feeling, I wanted to, this man, his determination, he cried. It was like, he describes it, when a mother loses a baby, that's how he was. And it was Ibn Shaddad, that a scholar, that went to Salahuddin with one word and told him, no, this is not what you should be doing. Rather, you should be focusing on the fate of Muslims and what to do next. And look at the immediate response of Salahuddin. He said, he looked at him, yes, astaghfirullah. May Allah forgive me. May Allah forgive me for my feeling my own pain and neglecting, focusing on the benefits of Muslims. Look at this. Look at the importance of scholars. One word, Salahuddin is firm. He regains himself. And he tells him, now you have to discuss the fate of those people. And he says to Richard the Lionheart, what do you want? I got the true cross. I got 100,000 dinars. But release the people. Release them first. I'll give it to you. And he says, no. You give me everything first, then I do whatever I want. Salahuddin said, you know, I can't trust them. How do I know? And he said to the religious people among them, make an oath, swear, you religious people, swear that if I give him the cross that you want and the 100,000 dinars, he's going to release the 3,000 prisoners of war. And the response came back, we cannot trust our own people. We can't. And Salahuddin sends to Richard again, release them. You know what happens? The next day, Richard gathers the 3,000 people in front of Salahuddin, orders the knights attack. He kills all of them. Women, men, children, all of them. It is said Salahuddin was shocked at this point. And he couldn't do anything. They killed in front of his own eyes. At this moment, and look at this, a woman comes to Salahuddin al-Ayyubi from the Franks, crying. What's wrong? What's wrong with her? And they tell him, this is the woman that came from the Frankish camp. And he said, ask her what's wrong. And she starts saying the following. Last night, some Muslims entered into us where we are. And they took my baby toddler girl, 1 year old. They kidnapped her. And they took her away. And I can't find her. And I went to our kings. And they said, we can't help you. But go to Salahuddin. For he's a man of compassion. What does Salahuddin do? Stops everything. Orders his soldiers, find her toddler. Go. What's the description? And they go for 1 or 2 hours. And it said 2 hours later they come back and they see the girl on the back. And the mother started crying and started hugging her girl and started pointing to the sky, making dua for Salahuddin. Salahuddin and everyone around him started crying. Look at the difference. This is victory. You understand what I'm speaking about? Look at his character. They just betrayed you. They killed 3,000 Muslims. They killed women too. Not Salahuddin. He's doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we are focused on Allah and His beautiful attributes, Allah is more patient on us. We do ugly things day by night. And Allah's patient. And Allah's Halim. And Allah's Ghafoor. How can I expect Allah to forgive me if I don't forgive others? How do I expect Allah to pardon me if I don't pardon others? That is not just words. That's inside. That's the heart of this man. You understand that it is not just a famous knight. It's his character I want to describe. That's Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. In any case, now what happens? The Franks leave Akka and they start heading south. Now Richard the Lionheart and his soldiers starts heading to the city of Jaffa. On the way, Salahuddin forms his army again. They start to attack. And they start to harass them. He doesn't give up. And then on the way, in a place called Arsuf, Richard the Lionheart had one mentality, maintain cohesion. He realized the technique of Salahuddin. He wants to withdraw us. The famous technique, the Muslims are like, they withdraw us into a trap, then they attack. Maintain your cohesion, repulse his attack. We're too many. And he moves by the sea coast. Ships are on his side, water on his side, and he's forming a barrier to repulse Salahuddin, and the rest of the knights are in cohesion, moving. And Salahuddin attacks, until a place called Arsuf. The Battle of Arsuf happens. And in this battle, soldiers of Salahuddin actually charge. They charge in, and they start defeating the foot soldiers, putting a defense against them. And the Crusaders started getting defeated and moving back. And the soldiers of Salahuddin charged forward. At this moment, Richard the Lionheart gives orders to the knights behind. Don't move, don't charge, it's a trick. Maintain your positions. The Knights of the Hospitallers and Templars, the fiercest on the Crusaders, the bravest among them, they couldn't take it. And it is said that they amassed all the knights, all this iron, and directed to the Muslims, and charged. And it's said the soldiers were so far away, they weren't together, they could not face this. And the charge, they scattered the Muslim army. And they started getting defeated, running back towards Salahuddin. And Salahuddin ordering the drums. Ibn Shaddad says, on this day, I was in the center with Salahuddin, and the soldiers are running. And Salahuddin is ordering drums, commanding everyone to attack. And Ibn Shaddad said, I saw Salahuddin myself with 17 young kids around him in Umara. And everyone is running. So I went to the right side of the Muslims, and I find the same situation over there. People are defeated. Malik al-Adil with 15 people around him. I went to the left side. And he says it was a major defeat. Muslims on that day lost 7,000. The army of Salahuddin is 20,000. That's it. And 7,000, they died that day. And it was a massive defeat. They started to retreat. Salahuddin starts to put a formation. And the Crusaders didn't follow. And they returned back. The Battle of Arsuf. If you read about it on the internet, they tell you Salahuddin was defeated in the Battle of Arsuf. This is the major victory of Salahuddin. Why? Reminds me of the Battle of Uhud. What happened next? Define defeat. Defeat is here. Next day, he could have said it's hopeless. The army of Barbarossa is going to come, 100 and 200,000, right? And look, and look at this, and the Muslims are leaving me alone. Remember what happened in 1099? What did Muslims do? What do you want? Jerusalem, take it and leave me alone. Salahuddin, no. Next day, Ibn Shaddad says, Salahuddin forms his army back. And what does he do? Stands, move forward. And Ibn Shaddad says, I looked onto him. When he moved the entire army forward, maintained his formation, a second round. Attack again. And I want you to imagine Ibn Shaddad looking to him, and he said, I saw him looking at the Crusaders, and he said, only Allah knows the amount of pain in the heart of Salahuddin that he's concealing at this point. By the way, news came to him at this point, Taqiyuddin died. Died natural death, his nephew. And this famous nephew of his, this famous hero, the one that he favored, died. Al-Faqih Isa al-Hakari got sick and died. He started to see his own people, the people that helped him, die. And when Taqiyuddin died and he received the news, it is said he couldn't hold it. He gathered everyone and then started reading the news that he received. That Taqiyuddin, all of a sudden, no, natural death. And he started to cry. And said everyone, all the leaders loved him. And everyone started to cry. Ya Allah, where is your help? And Ibn Shaddad tells him, no. Again, ask Allah to forgive you. You're crying for a person because it's his nephew, right? Focus on what's ahead. And Salahuddin says, by Allah, you're right. Let no one know about what happened today. And he orders water, washes his eyes, and comes out. Focus again. And everyone decides, we know their strategy. It is about Jerusalem. And the unanimous opinion was, the battle is now around Jerusalem. Don't start scattering your army. Rather, Salahuddin ordered all the coastal cities, the city of Yafa, Haifa, Asqalan, burn all the cities. Focus all our attention on the defense of Jerusalem. And everyone, they did this. And I want you to imagine this. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi goes to the city of Asqalan, a Muslim city. And he told Ibn Shaddad this, he has to destroy a Muslim city. He looks to it, and the pain in him. And those you won't find in history books. You'll find because Ibn Shaddad is his companion. He looks to Ibn Shaddad and he realizes what he's going through. And he tells Ibn Shaddad, by Allah, to lose all my children is easier than moving one stone from the city of Asqalan. But what can I do? It's the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what everyone told me to do. And he orders the destruction of the city of Asqalan and starts leaving and fortifying the city of Jerusalem. And not only that, he does not leave the army of Richard alone. Day and night attacks. Day and night attacks. After the battle of Arsuf, 11 battles. Salahuddin wins all of them. Richard arrives at Yafa. The city is completely destroyed. He's completely harassed with Salahuddin. At this point, Richard sends to Salahuddin. And look at this. I'll read you the letter about that he sent to Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. He sends a letter to Salahuddin telling him the following: the Muslims and the Franks are done for. It took him 2 years, hundreds of thousands, 2 years to take the city of Akka. By the way, the army of Germany, where is it? The 200,000, right? You know what happened? Look at Allah's help now. The king of Germany goes and he sees a river. He goes inside the river, he drowns, and he dies. And his people differed after that. Some decided to go home, some decided, and they fought amongst them, and the army disintegrated. The army is gone. The army of Germany was unheard of after that. You might say it's coincidence. You know, just, no. When it's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's the lesson. He chose to be steadfast. The help of Allah came. But when? After you exert everything. Everything. He did not despair from the help of Allah. In any case, Richard sends to him 2 years for one city. Harassment day and night, battles. What is this? He didn't expect this. This kind of performance. It is not easy. So he sends telling him, the Muslims and the Franks are done for. The land is ruined utterly at the hands of both sides. Property and lives on both sides are destroyed. This matter has received its due. All we have to talk about is Jerusalem, the Holy Cross, and the lands. Now Jerusalem is the center of our worship, which we shall never renounce, even if there were only one of us left. As for the lands, let it be that the lands be restored to us. Give us the coastal cities, the Holy Cross. It's a piece of wood for you, but it means a lot for us. Let the Sultan bestow it upon us. Then we can make peace and have rest from this constant hardship. What would Salahuddin respond? What would you do in this hopeless situation? That is victory. Salahuddin's response. Look at this. Today, what are we doing? Of course, I have my seat, you take what you want, we make a treaty, everyone is happy, you go home, I go home, good, right? Salahuddin's response at this point. From Salahuddin to Richard the Lionheart. Jerusalem is ours just as much as it's yours. Indeed, for us it is greater than it is for you. For it is where our Prophet came on his night journey, and the gathering place of the angels. Let not the king imagine that we shall give it up. For we are unable to breathe a word of that amongst the Muslims. It is unimaginable, لا يتصور, that I would give Jerusalem for you. You understand? It's not even something I can contemplate. It's unimaginable. It's not even in the imagination possible that you can take, I deliver Jerusalem? Impossible. Right? Look at that. As far as the lands that you took, it is also ours. Your conquest of it was unexpected accident because of the weakness of the Muslims at this time. While war continues, by Allah, we will not enable you to build anything in it. Even, you understand the concept? He's not, even the lands that they took, he's telling you, not only Jerusalem is ours, everything is ours. It is not yours, you have no place here at all. There is no trade-off. Today, that's not the case. We trade. Give me Jerusalem, I give you Yafa. Salahuddin, and this position, no, not a single city, not one. Richard the Lionheart starts, let's continue. Salahuddin, Jerusalem, if you notice, is inland, right? And Salahuddin focuses his attention on Jerusalem, starts to fortify the city, gathers his men inside, day and night, build fortifications. Richard the Lionheart starts to move inland. He does not leave him alone. Salahuddin poisons all the water wells. Every water well is poisoned. And as Richard moves inward, continuous attacks, day and night. Salahuddin would go out, attack his army, go back. Ambushes, attacks. The supply lines, the supply line inland is continuously under attack. Richard took, every mile takes days to travel. Every mile, it was so painful. But he continues, and the battle, and I'm speaking months here, I'm going fast. We have details of it. Months. And Richard gets unbelievably frustrated. And then he sends to Malik al-Adil, the brother of Salahuddin, and he tells him the following. You know what? I have an idea. We have a deal. What's the deal? Look at this. Look at this plan. We'll make a deal. You marry my sister, Joanna. And you and my sister rule Jerusalem together. Right? And we're done. So Malik al-Adil says, really? He goes to Salahuddin. Then look, I have a proposal. Richard, He said that I can marry his sister and we will rule Jerusalem together. What's Salahuddin's response? He's making fun of me, it's a joke. And he said, no, it's real. He really said, and Salahuddin, no, he's joking. He doesn't mean it. What, are you kidding? It's not possible. What was going on? It's a political move. You understand what's going on? Here's what contemporaries tell you. Richard he didn't plan for it. He threw it to Malik al-Adil, knowing that when he goes to Salahuddin is going to say no. And then Malik al-Adil will get upset. And then Malik al-Adil and Salahuddin would have a difference. You see that? And he would play on them. What does Salahuddin do? He does the unexpected answer. He says, okay, go back and tell Richard the Lionheart, I agree. Okay, we agree. So Malik al-Adil goes to Richard, he agreed. And a letter comes from Richard the Lionheart. My sister Joanne was horrified. She left the entire region to Europe. Marrying a Muslim is something that she will never do again, ever. Not a choice. What's the lesson? We have a mistake. We always give the expected answer. When you have we're so easy as an ummah now to predict. Muslims, if you do this, they'll do that. You can move them left and right. You can control them because of their anger. Never do what people expect of you. You understand what I'm saying? If you have an opponent, don't be played on. Do the unexpected. And that's what Salahuddin did. He understood and he gave him the unexpected answer. And that solved the problem. And that was the end of this proposal, by the way. That's it. So Richard continues towards Jerusalem. And now Salahuddin is inside of Jerusalem. And what is going to happen again? Is it going to be like the Battle of Akka? Richard and Philippe Augustus? And he starts sending people, and differences started to happen among them. Because Conrad, there are multiple people, the King of France, the King of England, right? You know those people don't go well together. Everyone knows England and France. Well, up till today, I don't know what's wrong with them. But they cannot get over they're united against Salahuddin, but nevertheless, Anyway, Conrad, one of the person that controlled Sur, starts to send to Salahuddin. Why? He realized if Richard and Philippe Augustus leave, Salahuddin he'll stand against me, I'm done. So I better quickly make a treaty with Salahuddin so I'm safe. So he sends to Salahuddin, let's make a treaty, I leave. Leave me in Sur. If I leave them, would you leave me alone? And Richard finds out. And guess what happens? Salahuddin plays that. Why? He wants to disintegrate this force. Starts sending him, yes, let's negotiate. And all of a sudden, on a Sunday, in a church, Conrad enters the church. 2 monks. They jump and they stab him. Assassins. Remember the Ismaili assassins? Monks? You understand? You understand what that means? Those are monks in the church. We know them. They've been praying here. The assassins had their men everywhere, even disguised as monks. People tell you, who killed Conrad? Was it Salahuddin? Most people, it's a theory, but the most accepted theory, it was Richard. Richard contacted the assassins, get rid of Conrad. You can hire their services. And we discussed, they attacked Salahuddin multiple times. I told you, the scar on Salahuddin's face was from them. When they attacked him, and they indeed scarred him. In any case, Conrad dies. And this is blown away. And Richard continues. Now, this heavily harassed march towards Jerusalem. And finally, as they approach Jerusalem, people inside Jerusalem, Salahuddin this time insists, I am going to stay inside Jerusalem myself. I'm not going to leave Jerusalem to any of you. He gathers his commander, and everyone tells him, it is too dangerous. Remember Akka? Remember what happened? You don't stay there. You go out. Leave us here. We'll defend the city. And Salahuddin was not happy. He felt that they will fall. They will give it away. This is Jerusalem. I should not let it be. And he was so concerned with that. That night Ibn Shaddad says, and again, you can see again this relation. He said, I saw the Sultan very worried about the response of his Umara, insisting that we're going to stay around Jerusalem, continuously ordering the attack of the Crusaders, but they're still coming in. And then he said that night as we sit, and he studies hadith with him. He's studying hadith. Imagine that. In any case, they didn't sleep, and it was like 1-2 hours for Fajr, and he looks to Ibn Shaddad and tells him, go take some rest. Ibn Shaddad says, I left. As I go to my tent, there is no time. Fajr, the adhan of Fajr. I made wudu. I went, I found Salahuddin making wudu. And he says he looked up to me and he said, I know what happened. You didn't sleep. He said, I didn't have time to sleep. Salahuddin didn't sleep either. But Ibn Shaddad told him, look at this. My Lord, I have an advice. Something came to me, I have an idea. He says, what's the idea? He said, look, today is Friday. Friday is a very special day. And you are in Jerusalem, in Al-Aqsa Mosque. Let my Lord give charity in secrecy. Do a good deed. Go out, give charity in secrecy. And then, look at this again. Pray 2 rak'ahs in Jerusalem, in Al-Aqsa Mosque for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in your, between adhan and iqamah. There is a hadith about that. And in your sujood, make dua for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to support you. For the likes of you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never fail you. Look, there is multiple hadith here. Jum'ah is a time of istijabah. Sujood is where you're closest to Allah. Between adhan and iqamah, many don't know that, your dua is responded to. You see how many things giving charity before it is something recommended. And he said, I watched Salahuddin when he did this, ordered the charity. Then he went down, prayed, and I watched him making sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua with tears coming on his grey beard, 55 years old now, making dua for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And said after that, news started coming next day. Richard the Lionheart arrives. Once he saw the city of Jerusalem, he gathers everyone. And he says this is a city that's impossible to penetrate. While Salahuddin is inside himself, and all his men are united against him, united with him. It's impossible. The order of the Templars, those fierce knights, they agreed. They told him, you know what? It's a very long line of communication and supplies. We've been harassed day and night. The city is so well fortified. Salahuddin is inside. His army is outside. It is impossible. We can't do this. It's undoable. You can't do it. And they differ among themselves, and the opinion becomes, we give up. We can't attack the city of Jerusalem. One can attribute that to Salahuddin's strength. The correct thing is to attribute it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His sincerity, his dua. I think that's it. In any case, Richard leaves. Let's take other cities. You know what Salahuddin does? Richard the Lionheart leaves. Salahuddin orders a sortie. He goes out, attacks the city of Jaffa, which is under Richard's control. He takes the city in 2 days. Richard was surprised. Salahuddin came out of Jerusalem, now he's attacking the cities again. He gets his fleet, quickly makes a landing, the army goes down, Salahuddin orders his army, and they retreat. Richard was surprised. Why is he retreating? Why isn't he facing me? Of course it's clear, strategy, right? And he sends this letter, and he says, the Sultan of yours is a great man. Richard is saying that. Islam has no greater or mightier prince on earth than him. How is it that he deported because I had arrived? And then he says, by God he is great. By God I did not imagine that he could take Jaffa in 2 months. How did he take it in 2 days? Greet the Sultan for me and say, for God's sake, grant me what I asked for so that we can make peace. This is a matter that must have an end. My lands over the sea are ruined. For this to go on is no good for anyone. Let us have peace. And at this point, negotiations open again between the two camps. Salahuddin insists, no peace. No peace until they deliver all the cities. And Richard tells him, fine, keep Jerusalem. Let us have the cities that we have, you keep Jerusalem and I leave. And Salahuddin responds, no, we can't. Everyone around Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, unanimous. Scholars, knights, agree please. It has been years, we had no rest, let him leave. We'll deal with them later. Please accept this. And Salahuddin again taking the concept of Shura. He agrees to a truce treaty. 3 years of peace. 3 years and 3 months. And Richard tells him, Richard the Lionheart, after 3 years I'm going to be back. And Salahuddin says, I'd rather face you than anyone else. I'm waiting for you. You can tell the respect that they have for each other. Things changed even. Richard has a different view of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. In any case, when this happened, he looked to Ibn Shaddad and explains something. He says, you know why I didn't want peace? Because I know that I don't know what's going to become of me. I might die. And as long as they have any port and any fort here, I know their determination. they're going to return back. And I'm afraid that my children, us, the leaders after me, are going to divide. And every one of them is going to take a city. And the Crusaders are going to come back. And then my children will not put a stand against them. And we are going to lose everything. That's why I refuse to make peace. And then he tells Ibn Shaddad, if you live, you might see this. By Allah, something very similar happened, by the way. I don't know if we will have some time to discuss it or not. But it's interesting that the prediction of Salahuddin, actually the Crusaders did come back. We spoke about 3 crusades, there are 8 crusades. And by the way, Jerusalem, later, in the time of Al-Malik al-Kamil, much later, the descendants of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, they gave Jerusalem back to the Crusaders. 300 knights took Jerusalem back from the Muslims. What Salahuddin fought years, hundreds of thousands, was given back by 300 knights. What he was afraid of, it happened after that. And that was from, subhanAllah, from his firasa. Anyway, he asks, now we have a truce. He gathers the Malik al-Adil and his children. What's next? What are we going to do next? We have peace. Where are we going? And they differ. Some of them go to Asia Minor. The Muslims there are so much disunited. Unite them. The other person tells him, no, Khorasan and Central Asia, you know the Mongols? They're attacking. Nobody's defending. Go there. What Salahuddin says, your aspirations are low. We're going to do both at the same time. You go to Asia Minor, you go to Central Asia, I go with you, and then look at this. He goes now back to Damascus, his city, the capital. He enters and they tell him, the people loved him. Sultan, look, we have a palace for you. Please, retire. Salahuddin looks at the palace, and what comes out? He said, this is a place that's built for someone that's not expected to die. We were not created for this. We were created to worship God. We were created to serve God, ubudiyyah, not for. And it's different when I say this when I desire it, we can say that. Sometimes you desire something and there is mujahada. But for him, I don't even want it. You understand how he says it? It is not that I'm resisting it. This is zuhd. Many people understand zuhd, concept of renouncing this world. Many people do that when they fail. I fail to have a job, I fail to be anything, so what do? The easy way out is to renounce this life, and bash the life of this world. This is not zuhd. Zuhd is when you have power in your hand, and the life of this world comes to you, and then you don't look to it. It's in my hand, it's not in my heart, I don't care. What palace? That's a zahid. That's zuhd. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Anyway, now to go a little bit faster. Salahuddin, I want to do Hajj. I didn't make Hajj. And the Qadi father comes to him and tells him, by Allah, don't leave. They're still here. If you leave, they might come back. No. And he tells him, cities are destroyed. Take care of the Muslims. It's more important. You can do Hajj next year. Salahuddin was, I might not live. He's old. And everyone says 55 years, but what he went through. All the soldiers had rest except Salahuddin. He fights day and night, summer and winter. No break for him. He ruled 23 years, 17 years on a horseback. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Sultan Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. In any case, he starts to feel sick. And people are worried about him. And after the Hajj season, the Hajjis are coming back. Salahuddin insists to go out to greet them. And he goes out, and he indeed feels sicker and gets a cold. And his health deteriorates. And people are worried, what is going to happen? And indeed he falls sicker and sicker, and they carry him to Damascus. And the doctors are gathered around him. And all of a sudden Salahuddin starts to lose conscious. And they realize this is serious. Salahuddin, this ruler, might die. And I wanted to imagine the state of the people. Everybody loved Salahuddin. By the way, in Mecca, they used to give the khutbah and make dua for the Khalif. Everybody would say Ameen. Once they mentioned the name of Salahuddin, they said the entire haram shakes. Ameen, people loved Salahuddin. Everyone was concerned. How about Salahuddin? What's going on? And he loses conscious, and they get someone to recite Quran beside him. He loved Quran. And the reciter says, I am reciting in Surah Al-Hashr, and Salahuddin is completely unconscious. But whenever I recite a verse that, for example, هو الله لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة, Salahuddin says, Sahih, correct, true. Whenever he recites, He's unconscious with Quran. And then he says, I reached a verse that says, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa alayhi tawakkal. Allah, no deity worthy of worship except Him. On Him do I rely. And he said, Salahuddin's face lit up. And he smiled. And he died. The news of his death, sorrow, sadness. It is said the entire city of Damascus, his children went out crying. People could not hold themselves. Ibn Shaddad says about this, he says, I used to hear people saying, I ransom you with my life. And I used to think that they're exaggerating. Till this day, when Salahuddin died, I felt in me that I would ransom my own life for him, and I felt it in everyone beside him. And then they come, the burial. Salahuddin doesn't have enough money for his own burial. They open his treasury, he doesn't have anything. Where is the money of Salahuddin? Spent on the woman, Hattin. On the Akka battle, you know how much he gave? 12,000 horses. That's where the money of Salahuddin is. For the women, for the poor, for the orphans. He didn't have money for his own burial. And Al-Qadi al-Fadil, his Qadi, I didn't speak a lot about them. The Fuqaha, the Ulai, they gathered. Ibn Shaddad said, I couldn't wash the body. I could not do it. And then Muhyiddin ibn Zaki, the person that Salahuddin chose for the khutbah of Jerusalem, comes. And he reads the Janazah prayer. People came left and right. Everybody prayed on Salahuddin. Scholars took him. They lowered him in his grave. They uncovered his face. Al-Qadi al-Fadil says, I went and I kissed his face. And I'll tell you his advice later. And then he says, I put a sword beside Salahuddin and said, this is a sword that you would lean on your way to Jannah. And then they come out. And he said, masses of people. Sorrowness was not only among Muslims and Christians. Christians were sad for him. The Crusaders were sad for him. Everybody, sadness for this great Sultan. What was his advice? Before he dies, he left an advice for us. You know what it is? I'll read you two things. One was he ordered the person that carried his flag, come. And he told him the following, you carried my flag when I am alive. After I die, carry my flag. Carry it on a long lance. Go for all the cities that I ruled and tell them, this is the flag of the great Sultan, Salahuddin, that owned lands and properties and he could not take anything with him except a piece of cloth that they wrapped him with, which is as much as this flag. And even that is going to disintegrate. He's reminding people with what? Death. Even his death, he's sending a message, you're going to die. Not only that, his son. Before he dies, he brings his son. What do you think the advice? There's a big lesson here. What would be the advice? When I read it, I said, I know what he's going to tell him. He fought for Jerusalem. Probably it's going to be what? Defend Jerusalem. Right? Look, what's in my heart comes out at the moment of my death. Many people are like that. Sometimes I work and I achieve a big company, and before dying, my son, the land, the company. It means my focus, it's halal, it's mubah, but my focus, my heart was there. You know what Salahuddin's advice was? I looked at it and I said, probably Jerusalem. That's his advice. And he says to his son, أوصيك بتقوى الله سبحانه وتعالى. I command you with the taqwa, the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I order you with what Allah ordered you with. I forbid you from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid you from. And then he tells him the following, and look at this amazing piece of advice. أوصيك, be careful from shedding blood. Don't shed. Salahuddin, the Sultan, the battle, hundreds of thousands of crusaders died. He's telling no to bloodshed. Don't shed a single blood unnecessary. And then he tells him the following, be very mindful of what's between you and the creation and the khalq. For that is not forgiven until they forgive. What's between you and Allah, Allah can forgive with your tawbah and Allah's forgiveness. But you wrong someone, that's very dangerous. Because He has to forgive you. Allah is all forgiving, people are not. So He warns him. And then He tells him this valuable advice. And he tells him, I order you to guard. And when I read it, I said, yes, guard Jerusalem. Look at my heart. You know what it was? I order you to guard the hearts of the people. I order you to guard the hearts of the umara around you. Guarding the heart. What concept? Did you ever, campaign, the political campaign? Better economy, better schools, no taxes, right? Did you ever see a campaign that the president said, I'm going to be the president and I want to guard your hearts from envy, from kibr, from hiqt, from greed? What guarding, many of us, do we understand even this concept, how to guard my heart? Many of us, our hearts are exposed. We go to this life open, and things enter, and diseases. How can I guard my heart? What is he speaking about? That's what the scholars told. The challenge to my heart, how should I guard them? That was the advice of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi before he dies. Some quick points about him. I don't need to go many things, but as we said, when he died, he never paid zakah once. Never. They didn't find enough money for his burial. Salahuddin, when he died, 80 forts and citadels he took back from the Crusaders. He changed the map of the region forever. Right? Once, one of his kids came to him and asked him, I want to kill a prisoner of war. Like kids, sometimes 14 and 15. There's this prisoner of war, that war criminal, let me kill him. Salahuddin was so upset. And he forbid him. And they told him, why? You want to kill him anyway. He said, no, so that they do not get used to bloodshed. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, his mercy, his rahmah towards everyone that showed, this is our hero, this is our role model. The character of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. I'm sorry to take longer than was planned, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for one thing, which is the purpose why I did this. Did we love Salahuddin al-Ayyubi? Wallahi, this is my intent. This is my intent behind all this. Simple. Why? You might love Einstein. If I love Einstein, will I be like Einstein? If you love Obama, are you going to be a president? No. But look at this. The Prophet told us, the Prophet, peace be upon him, Al-mar'u ma'a man ahab. One of you is with the one he loves. When I look to the life of Salahuddin, sometimes I think to myself, how? On the day of judgment, I can imagine myself. Salahuddin is over there, and how will I look? Can you imagine? Why didn't you pray Fajr on time? It's too hard to wake up. Can you imagine what? Salahuddin, what? Why can't you make your adhkar? I'm too busy. What? Why didn't you memorize Quran? Salahuddin memorized Quran. Why didn't you study hadith? I had my job. And you can't tell me, oh, it's like the companions. This is 500 years after the companions. What will I do? And sometimes I think I will never be like him. But look at this. If you love him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts you beside him. Maybe by the love of those people, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts me with them in Jannah. And this is the purpose why me as a Muslim, why I like this. This man, studying him and the works of those scholars, I bear witness, he changed my own life. Wallahi, after finishing, you know what I said, and this was a personal goal. I said, by Allah, if Allah grants me to do Hajj again, it's going to be for Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. I want to do that so much. Last year, people came from Hajj, and they told me, we met an old woman. And they asked her, oh, is this your first time? She said, no, I came before. Oh, why are you here? She said, I'm making Hajj for Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Last year, one of the brothers, that after speaking to him about this, went for Umrah, and he came, and he said, Al-Faqih Isa al-Hakari. Figures, the soldiers around Salahuddin that people forgot about. He said, my Umrah is for him. Up till today, they can change your lives. The purpose is, how did they achieve this? What are the scholars? What are the teachings of the scholars? How can I achieve such an aspiration? How can I be like them? May Allah help us, inshallah, to follow their path. The teachers of Salahuddin and Nuruddin Zinki is never less than the Prophet, peace be upon him. They followed the footsteps of the Prophet. Salahuddin, on opening Jerusalem, followed the footsteps of Umar, which followed the footsteps of the Prophet, peace be upon him. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. والعصر ان الانسان لفي خسر الا الذين امنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. For those of you, I have something for you. We have some CDs, the recording of a program that we did like this in the UCI, 6 CDs or 9 CDs. It's donation based. I have it here, I put it out. You have money, and this is my intention. Donate it, we'll give it to Palestine, we'll give it to the masjid. You don't have, just take it. It's free for you, inshallah. Exactly.